strange, but anyway, but I just want to, tonight is the last night of Kitty Brown, Councilwoman Brown's Town Board meeting. After 12 years of service to the town, this is her very last meeting. So what I would like to do is, before we start the meeting, I'd like to, open tonight's public hearing and our meeting in Kitty's honor, and I'd like to ask everybody to join me in a round of applause.
And Scarecrow, I'm going to miss you most of all.
So before I sit down, I just want to say thank you, Kitty.
Well, thank you. And it's been a pleasure appointing every one of you in this room to the respective committees that you serve on.
Is everybody in this room serving on a committee?
Just about, yeah.
Or, yeah.
Just about, yeah.
Not, there are open.
Okay, good plug.
Okay, so what, we're going to be appointing a bunch of you tonight again, okay? So, okay, so I'd like a motion to open the public hearing on the town, on an RV municipal water supply definition.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion. Before we actually ask for public input on this, what I just want to do is I just want to read something into the record before people comment, if anybody is here to comment on this. There has been concern expressed that the town board is considering this action specifically to further the Park Point project. This action was precipitated by a request by Park Point for a determination on the definition of what would constitute a municipal water supply. Our building inspector made that determination. A recommendation by legal counsel to the town board was made to codify the determination as a definition for future RV applications. There are 3 property owners in addition to Park Point who have expressed interest in having the RV district applied to their property. The action considered tonight by the town board takes the building inspector's determination and makes it a part of the town code. This action, if taken, actually creates more control for the town board, as we will have to approve a district and a takeover plan. This action does not change any action relative to the Park Point project, as a determination has already been made by the building inspector. This action impacts future projects, so they understand if they do an RV district, what it means and how it impacts them in the definition of a municipal water supply. So I did want to make that statement up front, just because I know there's been a lot of misinformation. So if people wanted to speak towards the law tonight, I just wanted them to speak with a proper understanding of what we're actually doing. So I'm going to just give this to the clerk for the record, and here's comments if anybody wants. So with that, would anybody like to speak? If you do, you need to identify yourself and come up here to the microphone.
My name's Everett Payne. All right. I want to start with your point project before we start giving water to anyone. Goshawk has 41 acres. It's assessed at 88.5. Okay? My daughter has 28 acres on Brookside Road. It's assessed at $418,000. Okay? Now, somebody has got to take over and stop these people that don't know what they're doing with assessments in this town. You also got to stop a big guy from building that isn't qualified. Okay? This is a big problem, and nobody wants to wake up to it. And since I have no funds, I'm going to sue the daylights out of the town board and everybody else, because you can't get a dime from me, okay? And Goshawk, okay? Who is Goshawk? Does anybody know? Nobody knows, do they? Okay. So, instead of talking about Park Point, I think we got to do the lawsuit, stop Park Point at all costs. So, that's my point of view.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Al White. I'm here with my wife, Christina, and we're residents of 15 Evergreen Lane. Also joining us
Okay,
is,
I got to interrupt for just 1 second. Are you speaking on Evergreen Lane, or we're having a public hearing on the municipal water system?
Oh, I see.
So we're going to have public input after we close the public hearing. Okay, so.
Just hang
Are we
on a
not
few
de-
more
are we-
minutes, a couple more minutes, and we'll
And
get
we
you
are
right back up.
dedicating Evergreen tonight, just in case you don't know.
you are.
Yes, we are dedicating it tonight, and we're going to be adding it to the agenda.
Oh, yeah, I saw this on the, okay.
Okay, so anyway, okay, so actually what we're doing right now is a public hearing on including a definition of what a municipal water system is as determined by our building inspector. That's what we're having a public hearing on right now. Does anybody else like to speak? Okay, Ira, if you could.
Thank you.
On the municipal water supply definition.
I'm
Thank you.
I know the rules.
Okay.
Ira Margolis, New Paltz, New York. I just wanted to mention again what Kitty Brown so eloquently pointed out when this first came up. The situation being that if there's a problem with any of these water systems, the town will take them over and the taxpayers will be responsible for them. Now, I know the law says if you want or you don't have to, it's up to you. But as said, Kitty so eloquently put it, when you get 3,000 people in here demanding you take it over, you're going to take it over. I just felt that there should be something a little bit more restrictive or some kind of delineation of what is supposedly in the public good or how you're going to determine it's in the public good before a group of people, not this board or whoever may be involved in it, decides, well, you know what, I like Harry, and I think we ought to take it over. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Is there anybody else who would like to speak relative to the RV? Okay, do you guys want to hold this open, or do you want to just close it, or,
I think we should hold it open,
I agree.
okay?
60 days. And I have a couple of comments. I just, I think Ira's point,
Can I just
well
ask,
taken.
can I just ask George from, it's a public input. Kevin's making a motion to hold open, so he can start to give his input, and just procedure-wise, I just want to,
You can give comment at any time.
okay, but he can give comment as a town board member now during the public, while we're
You
still in
can
the,
do it during the public hearing.
okay,
You could also close the hearing for tonight,
Uh-huh.
continue it to a date certain, and then have a discussion as town board members.
okay. So it's up to you guys how you want to do it.
I'd just as soon have the discussion now.
Fine, I just want to make sure we weren't doing anything because we were board members and it was public
Right.
input for the public. I just wanted to make sure we're doing things right. Okay, go ahead, Kev.
To kind of carry that concept forward of doing things right. I think with everything that's going on now with respect to our overall water supply and the fact that the DEP is investigating sources for a future water system, I think maybe it's premature to take action on this law at this time until some of those plans are flushed out a little bit more. I do agree with Ira's point that there could be a point in time where, despite the fact that the municipality doesn't want to take over a system, it's forced to. Now, certainly if the municipality is operating the system in the first instance, you don't have so many of those concerns. So my point is, I think that overall, we should maybe revisit this in light of the fact that we're going to have a new water supply, a new water system that will service both the village and the town. And for that reason, I think that we're going to have to take a second look at this law overall. The second point is, you know, I think the whole purpose of having a municipal water supply is to facilitate development that will benefit the town and the village overall. And so the last thing I want to see is to create a municipal water supply that's then used by people that aren't active participants in the fabric of the partnership in the community, where we all help each other, and we're helping each other cover the costs of delivering services to everybody. So the last thing I want to do, just in light of, I'm just going to throw out an example. You have a county agency amending the definition of what a dorm is. And now you could potentially have 5 or 6 apartment complexes in this community all of a sudden want to characterize their operations as a dormitory and seek a pilot for maybe future projects. And now all of a sudden we have a water supply servicing people that aren't contributing taxes to the tax base. So we're providing them with water and cutting our throats. So I think we should step back at this particular point in time, not create a hybrid law that will advance the interest of a few and in the long run hurt all of us. So that's the point I'd like to make.
I have a couple of observations as well. First of all, we got a letter from an adjacent landowner on this subject, which I thought I had brought with me tonight, but she had asked that we take certain precautionary measures before making the change to this law, and I don't have the letter, and I apologize, but I certainly don't think we should, contemplate any action until we can find it and address her concerns. So we would have to refer this to the planning board? Is that my understanding? If we,
I think we did already.
We did.
It was referred to both the planning board and the county in July.
okay,
This was originally scheduled. We reintroduced local law, incorporates the county comments.
okay. And the planning board, our planning board commented on this?
My recollection is there was
It's a letter from Mike.
no objection.
Okay, I don't have a copy of that letter, but I would like that to be part of our record. And, my understanding of the whole creation of the RV zoning was that we wanted to permit low-income housing, which has since become Meadowbrook, and which was a very noble cause. And when that happened, 2 other locations were designated as RV. And I think what we're seeing is the unintended consequences of what seems to be a good idea at one point in time and then comes back in another guise. So the particular trigger that has us looking at this now is the Park Point project. And as you all recall, that originally came to us as a PUD because it did qualify. It could put together the required 50 acres. And that would have given us the ability to have some mixed use. We could have had some commercial, we could have had some more ratables. And what I'm concerned about is that RV, and since apparently there is interest in at least 3 other applicants who are looking at RV, is that what we're seeing is solely residential growth, and we're not getting the contemplated commercial growth that I think everybody in this town thinks that we need. So I agree with Kevin that maybe this is the time to step back and see if RV zoning itself needs to be looked at again and revised, and whether or not it meets the needs of the community that we have today. And my hope would be that we could somehow insert into our language that any project that is seeking tax abatements through the Ulster County Development Corporation or the local 485B, is that what it is? Would not be eligible for this kind of municipal water supply. So that's something that I would like to see written into our RV zoning if it's amended.
Go ahead.
Can I speak to
Sure,
it?
please.
One thing that may be helpful to keep in mind is RV zoning is an overlay district, and that requires petition to the board, recommendation by the planning board, and action by you, yea or nay, and it is completely discretionary. You make the determination whether any new RV district will be created. That is solely within your control, solely within your discretion. There are mechanisms which will allow you to consider the proposal that a property owner makes in light of issues and concerns which go beyond the RV classification per se. RV is,
Okay, but my understanding is that once an application comes before us, that's not the time to start tinkering with zoning or the law. And so my feeling is that since you've apprised us of the fact that there are other people interested in RV zoning, and we don't yet know who they are, that this is the time to put some protections for the town tax base into that zoning. So I agree with Kevin that maybe we should just, slow down a little bit and make sure that we get that whole zoning language the way we really want it.
I'm just going to jump in, and then George could jump in. I just want to be really clear what we're doing or being asked to look at, okay? The zoning is there, the RV zoning. We could deal with the RV zoning in a more comprehensive way, of which I think probably there's not a person on this board who doesn't agree. However, in the RV zoning, there's something about the need for a municipal water system, but it doesn't define it. A request was asked for a definition. Our building inspector gave that definition. That definition actually clarifies things, gives the town more protection than what's actually in the law. And so all we're really being asked to do is take her definition, define it. We're not changing anything, doing anything, making anything easier for anybody. And when it comes to Park Point, they're already obligated in their project to live by the definition of that building inspector and move forward based on that definition. What was being asked to be done through this law was just to put the definition in, so when they say municipal water supply, there's a definition. I'm not disagreeing that we should rethink RV zoning in of itself, okay, by any means. I just don't want people.
So what would happen if we took no action on changing the definition?
Well, then you would pursue your DEP build-out and see if the town, consistent with its future master plan, would come up with a formula for creating the municipal water supply that's talked about in the statute. So instead of allowing private water supplies to be bolted onto a municipal system, you create your own municipal system at the outset. So we're at a stage right now where we have opportunities for funding. We should use them and create our own system instead of maybe pursuing this route, which is kind of like patchwork. And my understanding, George, is that there was municipal water available when the village didn't require annexation. But
if you look at the zoning maps, the RV districts that were created are contiguous, or I think they're all contiguous except maybe for Meadowbrook,
so really,
which was in a district.
this became a problem when the village changed the rules, and I'm not criticizing them for changing the
Became a
rules.
different system.
Became a different system, and therefore, water wasn't available to town projects unless that land was annexed into the village.
Yes.
Okay, so-
Or
after
unless
after we
the
did RV
town
zoning.
created a district.
Right.
After we did RV zoning, they enacted that law,
After.
actually.
Yeah,
So we did,
well after.
well,
Right.
and actually,
So it was available, and now it's not available.
two of our existing RV districts are, Meadowbrook being one, and then Locust Tree also, I believe, does not touch the borders of the village, so that would also,
Locust Tree actually, I think, does, and interestingly,
At the
Dave
very-
Clauser sent a map of the town's water districts, which shows it's included as part of Water One.
That is part of Water One out there?
So it was apparently set up with the idea that there would be a.
That you would be able to connect it?
There used to be a water.
There used to be a water customer years ago.
Locust Tree?
Wow.
I understood it was gone.
Yeah, they're not anymore. But
Not
they-
anymore.
But they used to be. Yeah.
So, but, I mean, I think that tells us that 30 years ago, when this was originally conceived, those three areas were considered the logical place for residential growth because they had access to village water and sewer. And 30 years later, the village said, no, we can't handle this anymore. And they passed a law. So, I mean, things have significantly changed in those 30 years. And I think one of the things that has changed is that we now find that the good intentions of 1987 to create greater residential density are in conflict with other parts of the master plan that look for a buffer in density. We, you know, if you look at our existing master plan from about 10 years, like 1995, they talk about the importance of a residential buffer, that you don't just go from the high-density zoning of the village to the 1 or 2 acre zoning of the town. And what's happening with RV zoning is that we're just moving that extraordinarily high density out into the into the town, that no longer has the water and sewer relationship with the village that it had when this was passed.
And George, back
Well,
to,
just to interject, the RV districts, as you pointed out, do serve as a buffer. To the extent the golf course could be implemented, that could become a buffer going north, and the Park Point property would become a buffer going south. And as I understand it, that would fit in even with the town's contemplated.
No, actually, it doesn't, because the new draft comprehensive plan talks about the Park Point neighborhood as a university growth area, which would also have commercial and retail. And so we're not, what I'm afraid is going to happen, right, what I'm afraid is going to happen if we're not careful is that the only kind of growth we're going to see based on the RV zoning that we have right now is more requests for very high-density residential development. And particularly with the new IDA exemptions for affordable housing, senior housing, and dormitory housing. I mean, we all know that residential housing costs way more in services than it pays in taxes. And now we're contemplating a scenario where it doesn't pay any taxes at all, or a very reduced rate under pilot. So what are the consequences of just slowing down and looking at this for another month or two and making sure that we're not, creating unintended consequences?
and let me just chime in now. And to kind of add on to what Kitty's saying, when you pull back, maybe you incorporate some of Ira's recommendations here. If you're going to proceed down this course, then maybe you want to have minimum terms and conditions already established, rather than having them subject to some negotiation in the future. Maybe that should be negotiated now.
That's what I meant to say.
So that would be another reason.
The concern with that is that you don't have someone to negotiate with.
Well, you
But
don't.
what you do want, I mean, you have certain things that you do want. From a town standpoint, is you want a reliable system. You want a system that is capable of hopefully producing water in excess of the immediate need, so that it can be integrated as part of an overall townwide district. When this was first being discussed, even in July, my recollection is DEP was not there. But the concern was still, how do we create a town system? And one way to do that is by creating parts that can be connected together when the need exists and when the opportunity exists. You don't want to pay for a system without customers.
Right.
You want those two things to proceed forward in some organized manner that you believe is in the overall town interest.
So maybe with the DEP now, though, it'd be in the town's best interest to come up with its own plan and finance its own construction and create its own system now.
There's nothing inconsistent with that. I mean, it actually gives you the opportunity to go with a system you completely design. You can provide a municipal supply. You can develop the groundwater resources. That can be available to RV properties. But you can also allow a private developer to pay for the cost of portions of that system if you determine that there should be a town district set up as a standby district that you have the opportunity to take over. It works both ways, in my opinion. And I think you might want to hear from Dave because he's working on the groundwater plan, and I believe he has a concept in mind for how groundwater could be organized in the town. We've talked on that on a few occasions, and he can provide insight into how the things that are bolted together will work in the town's interest. So, for that.
I still like Kevin's idea of designing the system that we want rather than relying on future negotiations. I mean, I had said back in July, when we had Woodland Pond here complaining about their unexpectedly high water bills and asking for a reduction in them. And I feel strongly that multi-unit residential housing should have individual water meters, that each tenant gets his or her own water bill, and that's how we really encourage conservation. Those are things I would like to get written into this plan. And I think particularly because this applies to residential, it's crucial that we protect our tax base in some way and say that any project that is going to have a backup municipal water supply will not apply for or receive tax abatements. I think that should be in the statute.
Well, I'm just wondering too, Susan, is that, and this just comes from looking at, if you look at where we keep changing the RV, and when do we do the coolers? What year was that?
Belterra?
2005.
Yeah, because what's interesting is the last time we amended the law was in 2003 for Belterra, because then we added adaptive reuse. So I think to Kevin's point, I think right now, again, unfortunately, and this is the unfortunate part, and Kitty doesn't know it, but she's going to end up on a committee for it. She is going to see this master plan through to its birth. So I'm sorry to say, yes, you are going to have to serve on something. But it seems, again, we're being reactive to a situation we should have fixed in the past. I absolutely agree. And I think Kevin could agree to that, and we're trying to avoid putting ourselves in a bad position. But again, now we're going and defining our laws based potentially maybe on either someone looking at doing something different with a water district or how we have it defined. And we should have never done that definition then. So to Kitty's point too, I'm wondering, when the way we had seen RV districts was to have what she's talking about, having a buffer into your community. These would be good areas for growth. Also, we did design them prior to losing water to them, or convenient water to them. So now we're having to put in a mechanism to get them two very important items, water and sewer. What I'm wondering is, we have another piece of zoning which also can work and does not come into these definition problems where you have the PUD. So are we now looking at where applicants are going to come to our community and try to find our laws and force into it what's going to work? So, for example, potentially, we look at Locust Tree, they may want to develop that again at some point. And I didn't realize they had an existing water, I actually totally forgotten water actually even went out that. Does it go out the rail line, or does anyone? Or it must probably go out to Bosse's, and probably from there, it probably goes out to Bosse's, and from there. There you go. So, or Huguenot, so it goes out that way. But potentially, do we want them to design their own water out there, or would we prefer to then grow our system? To Kevin's point, which is, if we're going to be putting in a municipal system, do we want to have a bunch of patchwork small systems laying about? So I guess the question to you, though, George, are we being reactionary here because we need to? Or is this just the wise evolution of changing 140?
In my discussion, and the person you really want to address the engineering aspects to is not me, it's Dave. And in my discussions with Dave, I think he sees value in accomplishing these individual opportunities. And the key thing, two key things. One is, it's a district. If it is ever taken over by the town, the cost is paid for by the benefited properties in that district. It's not a taxpayer expense. But more importantly, it's something where the system is going to be designed and accepted by you with offers of dedication that are acceptable to the town engineers meeting municipal standards. So it's not where somebody just, in the 1970s, in Orange County, there were a variety of projects, subdivisions, they weren't maintained, they weren't designed well, and they became enormous drains upon the municipalities because it had to be upgraded. But that's not what you're going to get. That has evolved. You're going to get a system which the town engineer would design for the town to meet equivalent standards, equivalent equipment, and it's going to be evaluated from the standpoint of whether it's economically feasible to accomplish that system, regardless of if it's a town system or a private system.
I agree with you 100%. However, down the road, you could get into a discussion with your applicant, who will become your adversary, about your being way too subjective with your terms and conditions of the takeover. So my point is, I think with Dave Clauser's help, maybe you establish the minimum, bare minimum that you'd be willing to accept now, so that there's not this abuse of discretion kind of argument in the future. So you have the roadmap laid out. For example, let's say that the system's 20 years old and the town decides it wants to take it over, okay? Because it's in the town's interest. But wouldn't it be in the town's interest to have that supply brought up to current spec at the existing property owner's expense, so that we take over a system that is at the high performing end instead of the low performing end? I mean, all these things I think we have to think about and incorporate them into maybe this local law, so that you have some minimum standards that are articulated in the law, so that you don't get into this argument about, well, you're being too subjective about how you interpret this provision. So I think we should set the standard and have that in the law.
Do you want to respond, or?
No, I think the engineering stuff is really stuff Dave should advise you on. He does this in New Paltz, he does it in other municipalities. I'm not familiar with laws that specify those terms. They generally provide a general standard such as municipal or equivalent to acceptable to the town engineer, and the town engineer does decide
Well, maybe,
whether it's going to be accepted.
George, we pass the law that refers to regulations that we pass with the law. And the regulations delineate what exactly we're talking about.
Good plan.
And then you avoid abuse of discretion.
Well, I don't really think when you get two engineers, there's going to be a lot of room to discuss it. If it's a municipal standard, if it's something the town currently requires for its own facilities, it is certainly going to be something you can require for a private facility. And if you don't require it for your own,
And I have a lot of respect for engineers, but when it ultimately comes to a default, okay, when I'm talking about default, when the two of them finally can't figure it out, it's always the taxpayer that pays.
Okay,
So
so,
we want to avoid that.
okay, so since we have not closed the public hearing, there's been a number of hands who have gone up that want to continue to make comments. So Dave, then Everett, then Ron, and I didn't see any other hands, so, and then I'm gonna try to ask for a motion to keep this open, because we do have other people here on other issues, and we have to keep it moving.
I think some of the questions that Kevin's brought up and some of the rest of you are excellent. The thing that I always worry about a private system that depends upon wells is what happens when we have a dry series of years, okay, as we did here in the early 60s, okay, where I don't care how it's, the average is certainly going to be enough to handle the usage of the residents or the users. But if you suddenly have 50% or less of your normal rainfall, you will not have sufficient water. And who gets the responsibility of addressing that particular problem? And if you're talking about a water thing, once again, I think it should be assured that allows the water district to restrict usage to their customers, and also to so that it doesn't, once again, dumped upon public responsibilities. We've all read about problems, I don't remember in Ulster County, but in Dutchess County, with water systems, independent water systems, and let's not get one in New Paltz. Thank you.
Everett?
The main thing everyone is missing is our land is full of paraquat, Roundup, and a few other drugs that kill people. So you start drilling wells, you don't know what you're going to do. Like they want to drill them over in the apple orchard so they can have it. You can't do that. The engineers will tell you no. I mean, why do you want to drill and poison people? Because the stuff is in the ground, and it takes 1,000 years for paraquat and Roundup to leave the earth. So when you start telling people you're going to drill here and drill here, the main thing is to check the soil to see what's in it before you ever drop the drill.
Ron, did you want to say something? It's on the,
Yeah, no, I'll let Mr. Lithgow to stop right, so I can ask you, what's RV stand for? Residential variable. Well, I've heard the words used tonight: apartment, dormitory, mobile home camps.
No.
RV?
No.
All right, well, dwelling units is unspecified, but it's specified clearly in the real property tax code category. So if somebody applies, are they using the numbers from that code to say that this is a dorm, it's a 418, or to say that this is an apartment, this is a 411? Omission. Dwelling units could be exacted from this and specifically stated as to what numbers they are in the real property classification code, so there wouldn't be any further confusion when someone applies and is taxed differently than a residential. They're still perplexed.
That's the IDA has a different definition than what the real property tax law has in terms of what a dwelling unit is. And for purposes of what, for what a unit is for dormitory purposes, they're saying it's a unit with a kitchen. So you can have 30 bedrooms and one kitchen, and it's still deemed one unit. So that's the problem that we have with their definition.
And yes, thank you. That being as it may, how does the county supersede the state on determining those classifications?
Because they have separate legislative authority to do what they're doing at the county level.
So who's their counterpart at the state level that would counterbalance, checks and balance, what the county does, even if it's erroneous or an omission of fact.
Well, that's why you have lawyers that will argue for your particular point of view. So our point of view as a town is that you don't just randomly define a dwelling unit to maximize the pain on the local taxpayers. You don't do that. And if they try to do it at our county level, then my idea is to hire a very capable lawyer. George's firm comes to mind. And we will make sure that their definition is more consistent with the real property tax law.
More consistent.
But that's not
Okay,
really the
that's-
subject of this hearing. So,
Okay, thanks. Okay, what I'm gonna do, because we do have people here for other issues, is I'm gonna ask for a motion to keep the public hearing open for, 60.
Keep it
I
open.
suggest adjourning it to one of the January meetings,
Yep.
inviting the town engineer to come and discuss the issues that have been raised by members and see if there is information which will.
Okay, so then if we're gonna do that, I'd like to adjourn it to the fourth Thursday of the month, the 23rd,
22nd,
January
or 23rd,
January 23rd. So do I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing on the municipal water supply definition to January 23rd with an invitation to our engineer?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. Okay, we're gonna go to the regular part of the meeting, and so we have announcements, public input, and then we have to accept the agenda, and we'll sort of talk about the order because we have different people here. So why don't we don't have adopt the agenda on here, let's do that first, okay, and then we'll do some announcements and public input. We have to add the dedication of Black Creek Evergreen Road dedication to the agenda. There's a request for a letter of support going up to the New York State Health Department for the Mountain View Nursing Home that we will discuss, won't take very long. I think we have to actually accept the bid that you opened today, right? A formal acceptance of the bid.
What?
We did a bid,
With surplus equipment.
surplus equipment
Oh,
that we had,
not- not-
and they
okay.
opened the bid,
Got
and
it, okay.
they want to award the bid, and we have to take action to
Yeah.
actually accept it
Okay.
and do the award, so we're doing it right. I want us to put on the agenda about inviting the village to our January 16th meeting for purposes of the comprehensive plan and possibly some other issues. And, Jeff, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I'd like to add local law to repeal Chapter 34.
Okay. So, that's what we have. So now the question is, in terms of order of the agenda, we have our grants writer who is invited to come give us an update, so he's here in the audience. I see we have Jack Sand probably here representing Evergreen, which probably won't take very long to do the dedication. We have Laura who's here with her granddaughter for the Zero Waste Action Plan. And we have Lynn Bowdry, who's here to do a presentation on the Vorco Valley Land Trust easement with a number of people here with her. So, yes, I see a whole row of people. So, in terms of ordering, I sort of thought maybe we would do,
We get rid of Black Creek and.
we could do Black Creek really
The bid
quickly.
real
So I have,
quick.
well, the bid we can do later because that's us, we don't need anybody. So we could do Black Creek first, the update by the grants writer, the presentation by the Vorco Valley Land Trust, and the Zero Waste Action Plan, and then get into the other stuff that we don't need anybody, and then the police commission.
Anything else we need George for?
Oh, do you want to do, we have the accessory apartment. I don't know if we need George for the adoption of that.
Do you think we need you for
Do
that?
we need you to,
Hate to let you go home, George.
I'll just wait. See what happens.
Okay, so
Okay.
what order are we going?
Okay, so we're going to do Black Creek,
Okay.
update by the grants writer, the presentation by the Vorco Valley Land Trust. Where's Laura? I guess she's probably with the granddaughter. They're probably going to be
Okay.
able to be
So
okay.
that'll be number
We'll do
4.
the adoption of the zero waste. Then we'll do the accessory apartment, police commission, and then we'll do the loop bus fracking,
Okay.
the bid, those are all pretty just quick.
Okay.
Okay, so is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
Okay, so do you have a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So, oh, I'm sorry, Kitty
That's
did.
okay. So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, some just quick announcements. And a quick question with the board. Can you guys, the inauguration, hopefully Jeff, you could be there, is set for the time being scheduled for January 12th at 1 o'clock at the community center. That's a Sunday. You're not busy that day, Jeff, are you?
I actually will be in Syracuse that weekend, but I believe we could leave in time to get back for that.
Okay, maybe if you want us to make it a little bit later, we could try to do that. So we'll work this out a little bit later.
Or I could call in, yes.
No. We're actually all doing this for Dan anyway, because the rest of us have been there, done it. The reorg meeting, can you guys make January 15th at 7:30? That's Wednesday. I will be around before then, and it's booked here Monday and Tuesday, so Wednesday's the first night we could do it.
It's fine.
Okay.
Be within 10 days? Is that,
Yeah, we have to do it within 30 days, right?
yeah. January 15th at,
The reorg?
Meeting?
30.
I thought it was a lot sooner than that, but
I thought it was
Okay.
within 10 days you had to do it.
You think so? Okay, we'll double check. I have to see if I'm back, otherwise you can do it without me.
Yeah.
And if not, then we'll just have to
I'm
figure
okay
out-
with January 15th, so.
Okay, if it's legal, we'll do it the 15th, okay, at 7:30, but we'll double check that tomorrow. Okay, in terms of announcements, Stacy, I think I left your announcement upstairs, so I can try to paraphrase unless you want to say it. I can do
Well,
it.
the announcement is for all our boards and our committees that use town hall for public meetings. The building inspector's office is the handicap accessible entrance to the building. It's used to come and go, which is fine. Everybody can come in that door, everybody can leave through that door. However, I'm asking that people who use the entrance respect the fact that that is an office. Not use the office to sit behind the desks, to put their feet up, to eat, to remove things, to use things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just asking that everybody here not use it as a meeting place, use it as your means of egress, to enter and exit the building, but please use the public areas for public use.
Okay, and I think it's really more, not so much the committee people. I think people who come here for public meetings and stuff have a tendency to go in there, and what happens is when the people come to work the next day, their stuff is all messed up, their stuff is not there, they can't find it, their chairs are askew, and, it makes them really uncomfortable, because there's some privileged documents in there and stuff, so, but that is our handicap accessibility, unfortunately, until we find a way to deal with this building. It's the best that we could do, we should, absolutely. Okay, so, is there any announcements from the board that need to be made? Anything?
The only one is there will be a public hearing on January 28th, so I'll be saying this at each meeting, for the Park Point out at the New Paltz Auditorium.
high school.
High school. What did I say, New Paltz?
Yeah, auditorium, the auditorium at the high
New
school.
Paltz High School Auditorium at 7 p.m. So that's January 28th, and it's the public hearing for the Ulster County IDA for Park Point.
Okay, so with that, it's now public input time. Ira?
I was at the planning board hearing on Monday, which turned out to be a very interesting meeting for me, only because the chair, in his haste to close the meeting, made a comment which I think, unbeknownst to him, may lead to something very beneficial to the taxpayers, and particularly in light of what Kitty has said today. What he said specifically was that the planning board has no authority or can't do anything or make any recommendations to the IDA, which again, nobody questioned per se, except what happened was some people got up and started saying things that the planning board could do to affect the IDA. And I listened to a lot of comments, and one of the comments rang a bell with me, real loud and clear. A number of years ago, when I was doing research into recreation fees for the village and how the then planning board kind of did it, if they liked you, if they didn't like you, and there was no rhyme or reason to what they did. And they said there was nothing they could do about it, but they could change it, and they couldn't. I took it one step further, and I asked the town board at the time, how their recreation fees work, because I know you have a flat thing, and you either pay it or you don't. At that point, again, thanks to Kitty, I got an interesting bit of information regarding recreation fees. They can only be used apparently for recreation type situations and only for certain conditions. Well, again, thanks to that, I started researching something called impact fees, which I brought to the village trustees who weren't interested in it because, again, there's no control. It's a flat fee based upon actual costs, et cetera, et cetera. I mentioned the impact fees to the then board, who at that time really weren't interested in the impact fees either. But when they were brought up Monday night, it struck a chord with me, obviously. Had any of the trustees or the board actually looked into and implemented impact fees, they can't be affected by the IDA. They can't be affected by Cuomo, who wants to make tax-free zones. Fine, you can make tax-free zones. Can you imagine if we had impact fees and Wilmerite had to adhere to those impact fees, even using the basic recreation fees? That's $750,000 that they couldn't have gotten out of, that they would have had to pay, because the state or the county or whatever cannot override the local law implementing impact fees. The advantage, as I learned, again thanks to Kitty, with an impact fee is it can be used for anything. You want to use it for recreation? Use it for recreation. But it's not limited to capital improvement recreation. It could be, you want to build a bigger pool, this is the advantage to an impact fee. It's every builder, every homeowner, everybody who brings something into this town has an impact on it, one way or another. Maybe minor, maybe major, like Wilmerite. It may, think again, you take Woodland Pines, had the village had impact fees, they would have had to pay whatever the fees were decided by the village. The IDA, their tax exemption, all it would have not made a difference over the long run, but at least some of that cost would have been recouped. In light of, as I said, people are going to want to do this, they're going to want IDA loans or whatever, nothing you can do to stop that. But if you do have an impact fee, and you have a schedule of fees that have to be, at least some of that cost can be recuperated. Imagine the impact to the town residents and the village residents who actually, they won't realize they're going to wake up one morning and find out the impact of this, to having $750,000 come back to the community that has to provide all of these services to offset the cost to the residents. And I think at this point, I understand that this is an entirely different board that was here, at the time, who really wasn't interested in impact fees, again, because they had no control. The only one who really was, again, I'm sorry, Katie, but you were the only one who saw the possibility, you're one person, there's not much you can do, of how this could benefit the taxpayers and ease their burden when things like this happen, with things like Frito-Lay, Sakari, and everything else that the IDA does. And I think, and I would like to suggest, that it may be time for the town board to revisit instituting a law mandating impact fees for any new development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Howard. Would anybody else like to speak to in public input? Dave?
Thank you, Susan. I sent a email a couple of weeks ago to Susan and had heard back from her. I'm here this evening about it, and I found out that she had passed it on to the building inspector, and I appreciate that. One of the things that a new board does at the beginning of the year looks at their fees and regulations and so forth, and I think that the idea that we're facing probably a major construction of a property that will have a significant impact upon the building inspector's actions in office and manpower required, that we want to be sure that our building inspection fees would cover the complete cost of that activity, and it may include some outside expertise required. It will probably all phase require additional building inspection personnel for at least the period of the construction. And I just think that it's appropriate, and I understand the building inspector is looking at that. I had also thought there's a possibility that you might be able to do it as you do with planning board fees. It says here's this projected cost, and we're going to charge everything to this for building inspector fees, but that may not be possible. But I urge the board to look very carefully at the inspection fees to be sure that they are adequate to cover any major construction that is may anticipate in the near future. Let's be proactive instead of reactive.
Thanks. Would anybody else like to speak?
I do. Again, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Al White. My wife is here, Christina, and we reside at 15 Evergreen Lane. I'm also joined by 6 of the other residents in that represent the 4 families that are on Evergreen Lane as well. So we're here, and some of my terminology is going to be a little bit off because I'll be as clear as possible. We're here to urge the board to dedicate Evergreen Lane because of we need to get some services out there. Part of the problem we're having is that we don't have a mailing address, so our mail has to be held at the post office, which creates its own set of problems. We don't have a legitimate mailing address, so we can't get our personal identification changed, and so we can't. I tried to apply for the STAR program, I wasn't able to. There's a tax benefit, so we can't get it without identification. We also have a family on Evergreen Lane that has 2 elementary school age children, but there is no school bus, official school bus stop there. I guess last of, I guess we feel that as taxpayers, legitimate taxpayers of the town, we're probably not getting the services that other taxpayers may be getting. And so again, we'd like to urge the board to look at that and dedicate it as quickly as possible. Thank you.
You stop talking, we start the meeting, we can dedicate it. Would anybody else like to speak?
Yeah, I just have to quickly go back and say Ira's giving me a lot of credit tonight, and I'm not sure I deserve all of it, but I do remember the discussion about impact fees, and I'm afraid that what I came back with was that the New York State Builders Association had pretty much successfully blocked most of the impact fees. But I'm so happy that the next board will be taking a good hard look at seeing which ones we can begin to apply in our town.
There were some, and I did the research, and I submitted it both to the village and the town at the time, Kitty, showing that there were occasions where they blocked it, but there were a lot where the town and municipalities said yes.
We're going to create a subcommittee to study it, and you and Kitty can be on it.
And actually, and not to prolong it and keep people here, but and Ira, just so we did look into it because I did in New York State. There's actually still some test cases going on with impact fees. New York City has had some success with it. It has been some success even here locally, though. Impact fees are for exactly what you're describing, as far as what is their impact on this development to that area. I don't remember finding, I think Florida has some pretty open ones where maybe you could get away with building a pool. Most states would not allow you to collect impact fees and then do what you want with them. They need to somehow be attached to the project. It can't be arbitrary. Because of the project. We have had success, so for example, hopefully they'll be breaking ground sooner than later on a new hotel in New Paltz. I know everything's approved. So hopefully, I'll use an example. We actually did get impact fees there. They'll be building sidewalks, which will be a municipal sidewalk. They'll be widening a lane of the road and creating a turning lane. That also can be viewed as an impact fee because the part of the impact is the traffic. They'll be building a sidewalk across the street also. A crosswalk over to another sidewalk, which again is just, those are all part of impact fees you are able to enact. Unfortunately, in New York State, I believe the test on home rule was not successful with impact fees. Does that ring a bell?
Generally, impact fees to raise revenue, general revenue,
Right.
is not permitted by state law. In the case of the hotel, there are mitigation measures which have been incorporated pursuant to SECR, which the applicant has offered, and accepted as part of the site plan to address those impacts. Strictly speaking, it's not money,
It's improvements, right?
Yes.
And so just so you know, yes, I will keep chasing it, and I thank you for reminding us, and now we have Kevin, so we will chase it. But the other thing, though, is, and we do need to keep an eye on it, because actually next year, I believe, the state is going to be trying to revise SECRA and taking out 2 of the sections, and one of the sections would possibly change how you do look at the mitigation efforts that you collect. They're looking to try and reduce SECRA down to about a 300-day process at longest. So,
It's a recommendation from a think tank that goes to that point, but
yeah.
it is looking at how to make it streamlined. And the key is not to miss out on the opportunities to mitigate those impacts.
Right.
I can imagine which think tank it is.
So thank you, Ida. We haven't forgotten, and I do remember looking into it also. I remember looking, so
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the meeting so we can start to go. In terms of Evergreen Lane roadway dedication, obviously we can't dedicate a road until all the work is done and it's ready to be dedicated. And so basically we had our engineer go out there and our building and our highways superintendent to go out. We got a letter from our Dave Clauser engineer, basically saying that almost everything was done except for a few things, and he recommended the money that we need to hold back. We had our bookkeeper go through and do a comprehensive look at the money that we have in escrow, what money we've accumulated. We already last year did approve giving money back to the tune of $137,000. We still have money left in, so the resolution that was drafted by Joe Moriello today reflects the money that we need to hold until the punch list is finished. And we also in the resolution is also approving the bookkeeper to give the rest of the balance back. What I will say is the highway superintendent, who might want to say something, but he did say when we were asking him today that it's probably one of the best roads built in New Paltz, and it's really impressive and one of the best roads for an absolutely incredible project, which is a zero net energy project where these homes basically produce there's no energy cost whatsoever, and it's all solar and geothermal. And so basically there's no coal, there's no oil, there's no natural gas. It's all solar, geothermal. You don't have to heat it in the winter, and you don't have to warm it in the summer. They're amazing. Cool it in the summer. Amazing homes. But the highway superintendent said it's probably the best road that's been done in New Paltz. So unless Chris wants to add anything or the board has anything that they want to ask, we do have a resolution in front of us, vetted by the attorney, the bookkeeper, the engineer, the highway superintendent, and the supervisor. And so therefore, if everybody's ready to just move it, we just need to move accepting the road. Does somebody want to move it?
So,
I have all the documents on here, but I don't
I don't have anything to read yet.
It's all right here. If you want me to read would you like me to read it? Okay, I'll read it. You want me to read the whole thing? Okay, at the blank meeting of the town board of the town of New Paltz, Ulster, New York, held at Town Hall in New Paltz, New York, in said town on the blank day of blank 2013 at blank o'clock prevailing time. The meeting was called to order by Supervisor Zimmet, and upon roll call being the following roll was taken. Supervisor Susan Zimmet, Councilmember Kirsten Brown, Councilmember Jeffrey Logan, Councilmember Kevin Barry, Councilmember Jean Galucci. The following resolution was offered by Councilmember whoever, who moves its adoption, second by Councilmember whoever, to wit, whereas on November 12, 2010, there was filed in the office of the clerk of the County of Ulster a map constituting a subdivision plat, more particularly designated as, quote, Black Creek Crossing Subdivision, situated in the town of New Paltz, County of Ulster, and State of New York, filed in Ulster County Clerk's Office as filed map number 2010-209A-F. And whereas, as a condition precedent to final subdivision approval of such plat by the Town of New Paltz Planning Board, Albanastor Corporation, herein referred as Albanastor, the successor in interest to the original, the subdivided Peter J. Christ and Marcia A. Christ, herein referred to as Christ, entered into a subdivision improvement agreement dated October 25th, 2010, which provided in its pertinent parts that Albanastor would build and dedicate the new roadway shown on the filed subdivision map and designated as, quote, Evergreen Lane.
I think you can skip to
You want me
the
to keep
actual
going?
resolution part.
Okay.
which,
Lori, resolve.
3 pages later,
Okay, so, I
resolved.
have to stop. I know there's a lot of resolves. So,
I think there's just a,
right here.
Final.
Resolve that all terms and conditions of the aforesaid subdivision improvement agreement with respect to the construction of all required site improvements with aforesaid subdivision dated October 25th, 2010, shall be incorporated by reference into, but shall not merge with this resolution, and it is further resolved that the consent be in the same hereby is given to the town superintendent of highways of the town of New Paltz to make an order laying out the lands described in the attached Schedule A for highway purposes in accordance with provisions of the highway law of the state of New York and other statutes applicable thereto, and it is further resolved that this resolution shall be effective subject to their remaining on deposit with the town of New Paltz as security for the completion of all items of work to be performed within the subdivision, the amount of $67,134.50 as set forth in the attached letter of David Clauser and Associates, and further resolved that the balance remaining on deposit after deduction of the sum of $67,134.50 as required security amount shall be returned to Albanastor as soon as conveniently possible, and further resolved that upon completion of the remaining items of work to be performed and as a condition for the release to Albanastor of the security remaining on deposit, Albanastor shall notify the town engineer and the superintendent of highways in writing, and the town shall inspect the completed improvements within 20 days thereafter to determine if the same have been completed in accordance with resolution and with the subdivision improvement agreement. The town shall notify Albanastor within 10 days of such inspection as to whether the improvements have been properly completed, and if not, shall identify and describe the defects and afford Albanastor a reasonable time to correct the same in the event that all remaining items of work have been satisfactorily completed. Albanastor shall be entitled to the return of the security remaining within the town, less all attorney fees incurred in the expenses of the dedication and acceptance of the highway, and all engineers, inspection, and other charges necessarily incurred by the town to confirm the completion of the work and release of the security deposit, and its further. Resolved that the supervisor be and the same hereby is authorized to sign such documents as are necessary to accept the lands offered with respect to this dedication so as to give full force and effect to this resolution. So would somebody like to move it? Would somebody like to second it?
second.
Would there be like any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. So what I just need is all of you to sign this copy, and your road is formally dedicated.
Thank you.
Jack, do you want to say something?
You also have the order of dedication of the highway superintendent.
Oh, okay.
I think Chris
I
signed.
have it,
That's just for Chris to sign though, right? Yeah.
I think I have it right up here, Jack.
And then those of you with the children, if you need the school bus, I suggest you call out to the school garage and talk to Maureen out there and let them know that they'll call us to confirm that it's been
Chris, why don't you sign
dedicated.
this so we have it
And then they'll confirm with Chris that they can get buses out there and whatnot.
Sounds great.
And hopefully it doesn't snow again this year, but if it does, guess what?
Let's hope.
It's now our expense.
You got- you get
It
to
is
see.
now our expense. Okay. So, Jack, the order of consent has been signed and we're signing it. Do you need a copy?
Let's get back into my office tomorrow.
Well, we just did 2 copies. She has one and I have one, so if you want to take it. What? She has one, so I can give you this. And let me just sign this.
I could have to fill the date in.
And also, those that are present that are here, also the trees, obviously one part of it is not to get the trees planted to the spring. Al Wagner is the one that will be,
We'll have to.
yeah, he's actually still
He's
going to.
coming back?
Al's agreed to come back to
Alright.
do that. So is Al Wagner, so if anyone needs his contact information, he's done this in many subdivisions here. He
Okay.
does want to talk to the property owners about it, so we'll coordinate with you, or if you give your information to Susan's office, we'll coordinate with you when Al's going to be up here again. He's actually moved from the area, but he's still doing the trees for this. And then he does want your input, though, on what trees you would like and what you would like to do. So we look forward in the spring to putting those in, too.
Could I ask a quick question? In terms of timeline, when the post office deliberations like that will happen, is there,
None of us look at the
So-
plan.
we can do it?
When do they get an official street address, I guess is the question.
The town, I'll just, I can-
Okay.
There you go.
the town assessor has already assigned 911 addresses to each of your properties, okay? You have those numbers. Take those numbers down to the post office and let them know. This is, did the assessor send you a letter saying what your address is? All right, call Tricia in the morning, tell her you need a form for the post office for your address for Evergreen Lane. Take it to the post office and that's the end of it.
They call that a 911.
911 address. And you use that term so that they know if they can't change it.
Okay, so with that now, we're going to, you're welcome, congratulations, and we now own your road.
Be careful what you wish for.
Okay, so with that, I'd like to invite Victor Cornelius, our grants writer, up to give us an update on all the grants he's been so diligently working on. And I have to say, and your partner...
Jennifer Ryan.
Hi, Jennifer. Pleasure to meet you.
She's at the board,
Okay.
to the supervisor.
Nice to meet you.
Jennifer's been doing the benefit cost analysis portion for the FEMA request.
Okay. What I can say, though, very quickly, I'm going to give the microphone over to you, is that, God, the amount of work that the state requires, the amount of documentation the state requires, the amount of time they write and say, we need this, we need this, we need that, and then I just write over to him and say, you are taking care of it, and then he writes back and said, yes, I am, and I said, great. And so it's been terrific because you've been on top of it all, and so I'm going to give you the microphone and you can do your updates.
All right, I think we're about done with, unless they come back to us for more information, with the FEMA request. I'm scratching my head a little bit because the original deadline was November 1st. And then they gave us 5 days additionally to respond to backup materials. And then they gave us another 5 days to respond to the backup materials. And Jennifer came in and started to work on the benefit cost analysis portion, which I frankly don't understand at all. I can't get my head around it, but she's a paralegal, so I knew I'd be bringing in somebody who'd wake up at 2 in the morning in a cold sweat about minutiae. So I think you've worked well with Laura, haven't you? Yeah. That you haven't met yet, but there you are. So. And Dave has certainly been supplying the materials appropriately with one eyebrow raised through the whole process. So where does that leave us? In the larger range of the process, I think that DHSES, which is the New York State Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, which I believe has replaced CEMO and a couple of other state agencies and has been beefed up by administrative funding from the Superstorm Sandy appropriation. They're collating, coming back to us, asking for more information. I think they're planning on submitting, hopefully, I think they want to do it by Christmas. I think it's going to be more like January 1st. Then the first week of January, HUD-DR opens up. The FEMA money, it was $750 million. It will fund only 75% of the projects that it accepts. The HUD disaster relief funding is going through the Office of Community Renewal in New York, in Albany. And that actually is a 100% grant and is supposed to pick up everything FEMA doesn't. And then there is an EPA, and that's 1.2 billion. When I give you these numbers, it's for the Hudson Valley north of Westchester. So the next round is 1.2 billion. You have to be rejected for by FEMA for all or some part of it in order to be eligible for the HUD DR support. So everything we're doing in terms of all of this crazy paperwork, we get to run through 3 or 4 grant processes at the end of the day. The governor's office is, of course, as is Congressman Gibson's office, whipping everybody to put together, what would they like? They'd like shovel-ready projects. What does that mean? Final engineering approved by DEC and DOH and all of the state and federal approvals in process. They want that yesterday so that in the fall of next year, everybody can point at all the construction that's going on and say, see, we're under a lot of pressure to try and make that happen for them as much as possible. I think it behooves you as a board, should we get any of this, the portion of this from FEMA, and they are taking it very seriously. I think Jennifer can affirm that by the quality of the questions they're asking and the responses to the application. I think you have to bend over backwards to thank the governor and Congressman Gibson and get them together at a Golden Shovel event probably in October of next year, even though the money won't be released yet because the county hasn't finished its hazard mitigation plan. So that's where you are.
Well, we'd be more than happy to have them at an event if we knew we got the money.
You'll know probably by the end of the beginning of the middle of January. The reason is that the HUD letter of intent is going to be due now February 1st, and they can't make a determination on what money they're spending until FEMA makes its determination.
Now, the projects that you're spending the most time on is the Sewer 6.
Yeah.
And
the two loopings of the
water system.
You're right, which may have some impact on the conversation you had tonight.
Before. Right, exactly.
Because we'll be laying water lines in areas that are undeveloped.
Hazard mitigation, do we need to do anything to make sure the county does what they're supposed to do?
Yes.
Should we adopt our own?
No, we're past that point. We've already indicated that you're going to go with them. I have given it the name of the Ulster County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. I don't think anybody else has called it that, but it's in the FEMA application. And it is what it's called. Great. Okay. So anyway, you have to make that happen, and you have to make sure that the projects that, as defined in the FEMA application, go verbatim into that county hazard mitigation plan. Okay.
So in terms of the cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah, here we go.
Do you want to give us a little insight in how it looks? Or did our numbers come out good? I mean, how
the status looks right now?
Yeah.
Looking, I think from when I last spoke with them, which was earlier this week, they won't say too much, but what they've said was that this will be the last time they come back to us asking for more information. And they said if anything else, just 2 small points we had to respond to, which we did. And after this, they said it will go to FEMA, and when FEMA would like to move forward, then anything else would be dealing with FEMA directly. But this was the last stage, and I think that we were in really good position because there was only a few small things that they came back with. I think that there is a really, we had a lot to work with. Mr. Klauser was great in his correspondence and in his materials that he sent me, and was really helpful. So that really helped move things along and to have a stronger initial submission. So we had less back and forth because of that.
Is there anything that we need to be doing other than what we've already been doing, which is supporting all of our experts to do this?
Well, I think once we're absolutely sure that we've reached stage 4, which is the submission from DHSCS to FEMA, I think we need to organized a little lobbying campaign. I'm not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to lobby as a municipality. I will go to Washington. But if there is, I think you should create some visibility around the need for the projects. And if you need for me to come in and help you with some press releases, I'm happy on that. I'm happy to do that. You may want to invite Congressman Gibson and some of the governor's people to come and do a tour of Sewer 6. They won't
That'll
come.
convince them.
But,
I wouldn't actually say that, because Congressman Gibson actually came here to the office early on to meet, and Kevin came and met with him, and I think Congressman Gibson might be willing
well,
to
it
come
is
and
an
meet.
election year, and it is a swing district, so
Don't
it'll
say
be
that.
interesting.
He's a very good congressman who just wants to service his constituents.
Absolutely, I think he's done a great job. We wouldn't have this money if he hadn't gotten up in front of the conservative wing of his own party, and he really made it an important thing.
So is there a certain time frame when you think we should, I mean, I have no problem extending an invitation to the governor's regional rep and to Congressman Gibson to
Extend
come.
an invitation to the governor.
We will extend an invitation to the governor
Yes.
and to Congressman Gibson.
Yes.
But is there a specific time? when we should
I
be-
would say, let's try and get them, I would send it immediately after the first of the year.
Okay, so why don't we talk, I'll call you tomorrow.
That's fine.
And let's figure out what we have to do,
Right.
because, and,
I can write you
Let's get
the
it
appropriate
done.
letter of request. You're great with your press.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's go to the sewer plant and see if we can come up with a couple of photo ops. All right?
I mean, we should definitely get some of the neighbors and the residents out
sure.
there.
Yeah, oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
they come to our meetings and say, a river runs through it, and it is my basement.
Right.
well, actually, really, at this point, we should get the entire community of New Paltz to come and be there, because basically we owe everybody in the community money, because they've been carrying Sewer 6 for so long, that we should have the entire community show up at Sewer 6
Yeah.
and say to the governor
Yeah.
and to
Thank you in
and to Chris
advance.
Gibson, this community should be thanked for carrying these few people who could never afford
Right.
to have a sewer system if it wasn't for the rest of the community.
Yeah.
And if you want us to comply with state controllers' guidelines, you need to help us so we can
Right.
pay everybody back.
Totally.
So we will do whatever we have to.
And please consider future service opportunities you may have for us, please.
Wouldn't it be a
Okay.
great photo op though if we got the whole entire community to come out to Sewer 6?
It's only 14,000 people.
Yeah.
Right? So
Well, this had to be done very quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lauren has
Yeah.
a wide-angle lens.
Well, we'll see
Actually,
what we
she got
got.
up in a bucket
I'm
once.
pretty comfortable with what we submitted.
Great, great.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there anything else you want to
Thank you
say?
so
Or
much. Okay.
Kane, you sat, you were here for a long time?
That's
Thank you
all
for your help, thank you for your work. It was really
Thank you. Nice
nice to
meeting
meet
you.
you.
What was fun was I sat there listening to your conversations with Jennifer. 2 months ago, you wouldn't have understood any of this.
Victor,
That's
thank
great.
you.
Okay, so Laura, since your granddaughter is so wonderful, she's just terrific, we're going to have Lynn come up, and then we're going to get to you next, if that's okay. So Lynn, why don't you come up, and anybody else from CWASP, if you feel the need to come up or whatever. If you remember correctly, we ended up, a while ago, we've been buying open space, we've been getting easements, but we've never been actually managing the easements. And so what we decided last year was to enter into an agreement with the Wackel Valley Land Trust to hire them to actually create a baseline for a number of our easements, to create a baseline and to start doing monitoring. It was a groundbreaking agreement, I think probably one of the first in the state, I think you said, Lynn?
I wouldn't know if it was.
Okay. Well, you said it was a pretty big thing, so anyway, so Lynn has been out there, she has been working, she has spent her allotment. And so she was asked to come sort of give a report to us on the work that she's done, where we're at, and so we'll understand how we want to move forward.
Okay, I have some handouts. I went over to compare my estimates of the time and money it would take to do things with what it's actually taking. And I have underestimated a couple things that are more complicated than I thought, but others are coming in nicely. I wish I had a pile of things that were completely done, but I went out and did all the photographs when it was a good time to take photographs, figuring when the weather got bad, I'd finish it up. so I'm finishing it up now. I have 2 of the baselines that are mostly done. I wanted to go over them in terms of getting a final approval on the format.
This is like, check. I mean, the last night after 12 years, I'm going to sleep so well tonight that this is starting to get done. This
You
is
can't sleep
wonderful.
with those.
Bring them home, under my pillow.
Just take a quick government, just in bed.
I have to give the planning board some credit for doing some heavy lifting a couple years ago, getting actual certification checklists and things done for the baseline documentation required for a cluster subdivision. And I have followed that checklist and more because these baselines would actually satisfy the requirements of the Land Trust Alliance. So there's more information in there than the checklist really requires. And I wanted to actually explain to people, just because I love doing it, what's involved in making a baseline. Because you don't just sit down at your typewriter and invent something. I study the easement to see what is being conserved, what the conservation values are. I get maps. Sometimes maps can be pretty hard to track down. I get aerial photographs to use for many parts of the baseline. And when I'm ready to go out and do the photo documentation, I have my clipboard, I have my car ID, I have my GPS, I have my waterproof camera, shockproof also. I have my little ID card, my compass, my pencil, a spare pencil. Sometimes I have clippers because there's a lot of multiflora rose around, and high boots for poison ivy. And I have my little sheet of paper that I take notes on, another sheet of paper that I take notes on. And I go out there and I approach the thing. I try to figure out what would be a logical way of exploring this so that the whole thing would show, or enough of it to really document the condition of the property. And so usually I will follow the edges. Many easement violations actually occur from third-party encroachments. The neighbors putting their shed on the wrong side of the line, the neighbors dumping their trash on the wrong side of the line, people cutting trees that aren't theirs, people setting up hunting blinds that are not allowed, things like that. So you have to know where the lines are.
Mowing.
So,
Excessive mowing.
yeah. So the documentations concentrate a bit on the lines, but also there are photographs of particular elements that are unique, things that demonstrate the conservation value. I had a lot of fun on a fee land part of the Lent subdivision, one of the parcels that was donated to the town. I haven't produced that baseline yet, but there are actually little fish in the stream. And I think I got a picture. It's awfully hard to take a picture of little fish in a stream, but that sort of thing. And so I make my field notes, and then I go back and I look at my photographs, and not every photograph is going to do the trick. So I have to go through photo by photo, decide where it's to go in the baseline, and I know where I was standing, but I write out the latitude and longitude so that 50 years from now, somebody can come to that place, look in the direction my camera was pointing and say, oh my God, there's nothing left. Or, there it is and it's perfect. And that's the whole point of a baseline. Conservation easements are eternal, and theoretically, you ought to be able to defend them and recognize them, actually, as time goes by. So then I have to go home and sit at the computer. And I put together the photographs, which are the real important guts of the whole thing, with each one with its own caption explaining what it is, because a whole bunch of photographs that aren't explained are pretty useless. And I also create a map key to the photographs so that you can look at the map key and say, well, I want to see what it looked like from this corner. Oh, it's photos 11, 12, and 13 at location 5. And you just look it up and bingo, there you are. There are also maps that help you locate the property in its context, maps that help you understand what wetlands and watercourses are involved, whether it's in a floodplain, what the topography is, a lot of interesting information. Then there's the baseline summary, where the basic facts of the property are discussed, and that's at the front of the thing. You can find that baseline information report, I guess is what I call it, or documentation, where you have the basic address, contact information, property number, the easement numbers that they'd executed, all of that stuff, plus a narrative explaining the actual nature of the property as best you can, the features in it, anything concerning the condition, like found an old farm dump, it pre-existed the easement, you know, it is not a violation, or found something that isn't allowed in the easement, it was here as of this time, and we'll move on to that when that's all finished. Basically describing the character and condition of the land. So that's pretty much what it is. There's a lot of information gathering and research. I hope the format proves to be satisfactory to everybody. I try to identify on each page what it is in case it comes out of the binder. That's a nightmare, but it happens. And so I will get a clearance on that before I print up the multiple copies. So I'm moving forward on that. As the little sheet I handed out points out, I have a lot done on a lot of things and nothing finished. So I'm moving forward at any rate, and looking forward to having some definite endpoints, as well as continuing on with the monitoring. And as to the monitoring, right now, I only have one easement that I've consistently monitored. That's the property that the Open Space and Clean Water, Clean Water and Open Space Protection Commission negotiated the purchase of the development rights for. And that has been sort of interesting to monitor, because the neighbors of this property feel that they're entitled to put up their tree stands to do their deer hunting, and the easement expressly forbids the construction of any temporary or permanent buildings on the east property. So I'm afraid a tree stand is a temporary structure. And last year, we thought we had dealt with it. We had discussions with the landowner, Mr. Palmatier. He spoke with his neighbor, who seemed to be the one with the tree stands. Well, those tree stands went away and haven't come back, but we found 2 more tree stands this year, so we're in the process of dealing with them. And so some easements are real easy and nothing ever happens. And some easements, you have things like this. But I can say that I think once the tree stands are dealt with and people know what's going on, it will cease to be a problem. And I have an idea for easements that might be a good idea. When the town accepts an easement, I will draft a letter that could be sent out to all adjacent property owners, announcing the fact that there is a conservation easement on this property that forbids the doing of this, this, and this. And we hope that they will support the easement and watch out that nothing is happening on there, and they will refrain from doing anything themselves. You know, nice wording, of course.
Because
But
they're
if
actually
people
the
are more-
beneficiaries of this
Sure,
wonderful
they are the
thing right next
beneficiaries.
door, right?
Except if they're used to putting up tree stands. So, at any rate, that's what I've been doing, and I hope if there are any, questions or adjustments or anything that you would like to make, just
No,
get in
this is
touch.
just a tremendous relief because, I mean, as you just pointed out with just the two that you've been talking about, I mean, when something happens that is a violation of the easement, if you don't know the baseline and you can't really go back and say, this wasn't here before, you have to take it down. But once you've got the baseline documentation, then you literally know where you stand.
Now, George, is there any mechanism to have the owners, or is there any way that you should have the owners sign off on these
Oh, yeah.
baselines when they're completed?
They do need
It's the
to.
second page.
Oh, they already, okay.
Yeah, there's
They
something
haven't
in there
yet,
that has
but
to be
they will.
signed.
Now, we're way behind on doing documentation on, has ownership changed on any of them? or-
Yes.
Yes.
I actually knew the answer to that,
Oh, and
unfortunately.
I forgot to mention.
So who goes back and-
Because some of these documentations are a little bit late. For instance, one of the ones here holding the Outlook Farms.
Only
That
this was
easement
done at the same time we did our
was
RV zoning.
1987.
What were we
And-
thinking?
And so I was actually able to get an old aerial photograph from the Ulster County Soil and Water Conservation Service from 1986, which is when the negotiations were being done. And it shows the property as it was. And from Google Earth, you can get historic aerial photographs also. And so the maps in there support the assertion that the property has essentially not changed. It is in essentially the same condition as it was when the easement was, what is it called?
Granted.
Granted, well, yeah,
Preserved.
signed.
Yeah.
Lynn, can I-
Protect.
can we go
Conveyed.
through these so that I'm familiar with this now? Can we go through them one at a time? Just give me a quick summary. So Mohawk Trust on Shawangunk Ridge, that's something that we don't do as a town, correct?
No, we could if we wanted to, but, walking the entire ridge,
At 65 an hour.
I think the town of New Paltz can trust the Mohonk Preserve to take good care of its
Okay, I'm
land.
just wondering why it's on your list.
Because when they created the Mohonk Preserve, the trust decided, I don't think it was asked for, but I don't know the history, it was before I was here, that the town should have a conservation easement to guarantee that the property that they possessed, and I suspect were holding tax exempt, would not be developed and would be used
I'm
to preserve
confused.
the environment.
I'm confused. Start over with this, Lynn. Number one,
Number
Yeah,
one.
That's what she's talking about.
Mohawk Trust.
Mhm. That was what the Mohawk Preserve used to be called.
Right. What is the town's relationship to this particular parcel?
It lies within the town boundaries.
Does the town of New Paltz have a conservation easement on this piece of property?
Yes, you do.
So that's why
You
she,
do.
Yes.
Are we the backup holder, or do we hold the actual first? Because I know that they like to get a backup. Are we the actual primary
Well,
holder?
the actual document is on the hard drives of the building department. I think Rosanna has them. I've rounded up all the conservation easements and made copies and scanned them and distributed the scans repeatedly.
Outlook Farms.
Mhm.
So do we own lots 21 and 23 in fee?
No,
So we
you have easements on them.
And who owns those lots?
They have been merged with the lot between them, and George Sifry owns it.
So we have conservation easements on George's land?
Yes,
Portions of it.
portions of it. It's explained actually in the baseline.
Of the baseline that's right
And-
there.
Kill
Right.
Associates?
He's going on to the next one, Stony Kill.
Stony Kill Associates.
He's going right through the sheet. Go
I just want to
ahead.
say, but
He's not
Kevin,
messing around.
just show us to
Okay.
Kevin that,
Next.
show that
Stony
to
Kill
Kevin.
Associates, the easement itself covers the complete parcels, 2 building lots, one of which has a house on it, which is permitted by the baseline, the other is unoccupied. And I'm almost done with that one.
But these are all town-held easements.
Town-held easements.
Sorry to give you a headache. I know
No,
you're
But is
I'm
Stony
just trying to
Kill-
figure out why, I'm trying to figure out what was the quid pro quo for the easement.
I think they must have been the result, and maybe going back to the planning board minutes, of subdivisions to preserve open space. Albany Post Road was identified as a scenic road, and the wording of those easements is mostly for viewshed protection.
Why aren't we as a town getting those people that are giving us the land the responsibility for paying for this particular work? You know, and because I saw 2 vouchers that shocked me in terms of the amount of money that the town was spending in just a 2-month period on this. And I'm saying to myself, why aren't the people that have granted these or given us,
I know.
why aren't they paying for it?
And Stacy knows too.
The answer is that we should have been collecting that at the time the
we
easement,
should have been.
okay. So,
But it's a discussion we've had for years here, Kevin, so.
okay.
The goal
Wait a
is
second, wait a
to
second.
have an
Time out.
annuity.
Okay, wait.
And wait, Stacy has
Wait, time out.
some
Stacy had her
history.
hand, wait, Stacy had her hand up, but then George wants to say something.
I believe, and George could probably substantiate this or tell me that I'm incorrect, I believe that at one point, way back when, the planning board was accepting conservation easements in lieu of recreation.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's why you have
Boy, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
so many other.
That's how we got
small
Hickory Hill.
private-
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Does that
we-
make sense?
But they weren't getting an annuity
They
to
haven't been doing
monitor.
that since I've been the attorney.
Thank
But-
God.
But there is a resolution which the town adopted, I think around 1990, sometime in the 1990s, which requires a grantor of an easement to provide a endowment.
That was in the
So it can be used for
2000s.
monitoring.
That was after I got on the board. It was
Yeah.
after.
Can we go back and
Way
implement
after
that
this.
and start offsetting these costs? Now, Lynn, your work is amazing. I didn't see this, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to take a copy. But I just don't think the town should be spending $2,000 or $3,000 a month when it can pass those costs on to somebody else.
Well, it's a one-time cost, I mean.
Okay, wait a
The
second. Time out.
baseline is
Well-
one time.
Well, time out for a second. Stacy has her hand up, and then
We have been
stay up here, Stacy.
We have
Come sit
been
here.
fixing the problem, and we have been collecting the endowment fees on the new conservation easements that are coming through subdivisions. What you're holding in your hand is old, approved, accepted easements. There's no way to go backwards.
We could
That's
ask.
why-
We can always ask.
No, they're not gonna give
Let
us
me ask
a-
you
No.
a question.
Okay, but
This is a question I have. Obviously, there is, in everything, there's quality and then there's less than great quality when it comes to certain things. I think the land is similar. You have some quality areas in New Paltz that certainly we should preserve and protect. And then you have some other things that maybe aren't so much quality that have been just kind of given to us, maybe in exchange for a rec fee. Is there anything we can do to enhance our inventory of property? Do we Do we need to have?
They're in perpetuity,
I
for
know,
better or
but-
worse, Kevin. And
For better or for worse,
the first half of this is for worse, and the second half is for better.
I would even venture to say the first couple percentage points are for worse, and then the majority of this is, Kevin, for the public good of open. And we'll just go with Mohonk Trust, we don't need to discuss that, is absolutely for this community's all good. But you look at Outlook Farm, that open space that's, again, we just had the development rights on that, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So again, Kevin, that would just be maintain a beautiful open area there, allow the view sheds not to be disturbed. No, we cannot enhance that to become a public park, but it has enhanced our community because it's maintaining those values up there also. And we are getting enhanced tax rates for those properties up there because of these too. So it does have an effect on our community that we are
Just seems like a
garnering.
patchwork, though.
Well, it is.
If you remember, Kevin, when we first got into office, we had a meeting with the planning board, the zoning board, and the town board. And at that meeting, that's when we basically said to the planning board, if you remember correctly, that we did not want them to be taking extraneous land in exchange for rec fees, because then we end up like at Lent Drive, there's that little pond with a bench. That's a private park for Lent Drive that the town is responsible now for maintaining, okay? And so it's like, to what benefit did we as a community get out of that deal? We would have been better off with rec fees. And so we sort of said, Kevin, to the planning board, try not to do that anymore. But we as a board made a choice to say we own certain land that we have conservation easements on. Nobody has been managing them. There have been complaints about encroachments. In order to really understand how we can manage them and make sure nobody's encroaching, we've got to do a baseline, and that's why we as a board chose to allocate a certain amount of money that was dedicated to the CWASP
But we
committee.
didn't allocate enough money.
Well, we allocated $5,000 as a start for a baseline, if I remember correctly.
Last year,
If you could just use the microphone.
last year in the budget, Kevin, $16,500, I believe, was allocated for the category of stewardship, which would include condition reports, baselines, and annual monitoring of those easements. We've been trying to get our arms around how much have we spent of that $16,500. Am I going towards what you want to know? Yeah. We've submitted bill. Walker Valley Land Trust has submitted bills which CWASP has approved and forwarded of $5,157. We have information from the trust that suggests that were they to add up all of their expenses through today and submit that as an invoice, which we think they're going to do real soon. We hope they do real soon.
Yeah.
Be another $6,000.
It was in the printer today. I didn't bring it tonight. We had other stuff.
The only thing I have to just double check is we entered into a contract with the Walker Valley Land Trust.
Handshake.
Joe, we actually did a contract, didn't
Well, we drafted one, but Joe Moriello recommended to you folks that instead of executing a formal contract, you do a handshake agreement that basically was for the terms in that drafted written comment.
And
Contract, I'm
This is what the land trust committed itself to doing.
I thought it was $65 an hour, and then there was a cap.
The $5,000, my recollection, was for baseline, but that was its own separate line. And then out of the CWASP budget, I believe there was another $16,000 towards stewardship.
16.5, I think.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, we do this with everybody, medical insurance, everybody. So don't take offense.
Oh,
It's
I'm
just that
not. I'm
when
thrilled
I'm
that
looking
somebody's actually paying attention.
When I'm looking at a voucher,
She's happy someone's
when
looking
I'm
at
looking at a voucher as an attorney, when I'm billing for a phone call, I can't bill my client usually for any more than 0.1 because it's just, it's not realistic. Some attorneys bill their clients a minimum of a quarter of an hour depending on if they're on the phone with them a minute or 5 minutes, quarter of an hour. So I'm just saying, when it comes to billing for things, you have to be very conservative, when you bill. That's all I'm saying. I think maybe it was a billing practice thing that when I was looking at the voucher, I was looking at a phone call, maybe a 0.3 or 0.4. It's a long time. So taking photographs for 4 hours, I guess I don't know your business. And maybe I should be in your business instead of my own business.
Not at $65.
There are standards,
I'm
Kevin.
just saying, please be conservative in your billing on this for the town. I'm asking.
I am.
Okay.
In fact, I've done a lot of extra stuff just as a volunteer.
But I think you should explain, because, when Kevin did look at the voucher, which is part of the reason I had asked you to come do the presentation, so it's interesting, I was going to ask you to come anyway, just because we did authorize X amount of money. We did get a voucher that there was some concern in terms of, how many, taking pictures 4 hours at such a cost, whatever, so I felt like you should come and explain so people could understand what you're doing. Then Marty on his own was intelligent enough to sort of, in your meeting, suggest that you should do a presentation to the board. And so you had made that suggestion before I even had gotten the email to you to say, I'd like you to come to a presentation. So you were going to say that there's certain standards and stuff, because I think, there needs to be an understanding of why, that it is $65 an hour, 4 hours taking pictures, and why that's necessary and needed, and why that's a fair charge to do the work that you're trying to do, so Kevin can feel more comfortable, because Kevin didn't sign the voucher. Jean Galucci signed it, because Jean understood and felt comfortable and said, we authorized you. She was happy with what the work you did, but I think Kevin needs to feel comfortable at the end of the day, because one day he's going to be asked to sign the voucher again. So,
So the check is made out to the Walker Valley Land Trust, right? So whatever, we need to have a professional organization do this for us, because we can't do it ourselves. And we're just lucky that we have a local land trust in our neighborhood that can perform the service for us. But I think what this shows is that 25 years ago, when we began accepting conservation easements, you look at those two bizarre rectangles out at Outlook Farms, and you say, what were they thinking? And I don't know, except that, if you added up all of the places that have been preserved, however random they appear and whatever patchwork it may look like, every time they're developed into something else, that costs the taxpayers a lot more money than sending Lynn out there once to perform a baseline study.
But so that I understand this going forward, the baseline study is complete. That is your starting point for future activity.
Monitoring.
Right.
So you're never going to incur the same kind of expense.
Right, exactly.
No.
But do we have an idea what it's going to be on a recurring basis now?
Yeah. In fact, that
That would be
should
the
be in the other line, monitoring hours estimate.
Because then she's able to take this baseline, and then she's able to go out and say, next year, and the year after that, and 100 years from now, walk the property boundary and use this to say,
As her guide.
wow, there's a Walmart now on the boundary. This was not there last year. This is not okay.
Do we
But
have-
now we have something to compare that to.
Do we have a revenue line for them too?
well, we don't have a revenue.
Well, that's what I was wondering, George, is there a mechanism in place that when Lynn goes out, well, I apologize, when we send out Walker Valley Land Trust, even though you're here, Lynn.
Walk about land, just land.
When we send out Walker Valley Land Trust and they do find violations, is there a mechanism in place to then
Yeah, that's our
hold someone accountable?
humongous endowment.
Wait, Stacy might be able to answer this.
Well, it does flow to her.
Gets run through my office.
And then, how do you collect your fees?
My fees,
If you have to go out and
violation,
Yeah.
cure a violation.
I haven't.
Right,
So
that-
then, I guess
Lynn
next.
actually volunteered her time and put a sign up on the tree stand saying, please remove these stands by a certain date. If you don't, we will remove them. And it's up to, understand, it's up to, we own the conservation easement, we don't own the land.
Right.
Okay, we have an easement over the land. It's actually up to the landowner to cure the violation. not up to us to do it, it's up to them to do it. So we send a notice of violation to the landowner, and then we do another inspection to ensure that they.
Right, you work with the landowner, and part of the agreement that we worked on before is offering some language in a letter or offering some possible solutions, such as letters on the tree stand, such as, please remove your tree stand in the next 10 days or it'll magically disappear, and surprisingly, they do remove their tree stand, or things
But
like
they
that to
didn't
help
this
with,
time,
oh,
darn
they
it.
didn't, so now you have a
Gonna
tree
have to
stand
go
for
back
bird
with a
watching,
pry
but
bar.
offering some solutions is part of what we've offered in this service to try and help with these violations.
So do we have anything coming in from any of these people at all? Nothing? Okay.
That's what
That's what a stewardship
Stewardship.
endowment should cover.
Right.
So we'll do
And
that going forward.
that's why, in the
So-
future, when we do another fee simple
I think Lynn has to go
purchase,
out and give us a report on what she estimates the time will be, and then we develop our numbers off of that.
for the endowment.
Yes.
And when we do the fee simple, because if you look at the bottom one, the Millbrook Preserve, 62 acres that we bought, we don't get an endowment with that. So we have to seriously think about what we're going to pay for future open space acquisitions to buy them, because that seller is not going to give us the endowment that we need. So that endowment should definitely be factored into any purchase price when we negotiate future open
Well,
space.
fee land, you might consider differently, because now it is effectively town park land. It probably should be looked at in a systematic way, just to make sure that everything's okay.
Yeah, but we don't, maintaining our parkland, our recreation budget has gone from about $10,000 to $200,000. So, it's a big situation. So when we take on.
Most of it's concentrated on one category, but we'll talk about that another night.
Okay, but
Signing vouchers
as
for-
we grow,
for
and
Kool-Aid and hot dogs and veggie burgers.
but as
No,
we
it's
grow
a-
in population, we also need to grow our recreational assets. There's no question about it. But we just need to think about that when
So,
we purchase
Lynn,
more open space.
I'm looking at the column, the last column, I'm happy with that column. I'm okay with that column. It was the column before that was,
Right, that's the
so
doozer.
now I understand, thank you.
And I think too, if you just take, I just did it real quick, and I'm directionally I'm correct though, and to your point too, is it's also what I've always said, which is these are gifts that keep on taking, which is fine though, because there's a huge public benefit to many of these gifts. Some of the gifts, I think we've remedied that, they are not sometimes to our best interest. But you're looking at, Kevin, so you're looking at about $45 an acre you're spending for the third column, which was to make the.
Talking about the last column?
Or baseline hours estimate. So to do the baseline, you're looking at about $45 an acre.
But that's already done.
Well, but then again, maybe that's giving, maybe that, no, not annually.
Oh,
That's-
you're not in the monitoring.
That's just to say, so I've gone out and someone wants to give us, so maybe, Kevin and/or George, maybe that's a price we keep in our head. Like, we keep in our head, okay, so someone wants to give us 50 acres, so, or
Land trusts
5 acres.
typically have
maybe-
a chart that will be for exactly that purpose.
Right, and
Right,
that's
so
the general
maybe we
amount. Some
say-
baseline's a little more difficult. It's shaped
It
like an
is.
alligator, and there's a mountain in between, and it's more difficult. It might be a little, but that's the general.
So if we sit here and say, though, it's gonna cost me it's gonna cost the town $45 or $50, we need to collect that, though, which, by the way, is a lot cheaper than recreation fee.
I think so. Our recreation.
Talk to that man.
I think you have an endowment fund.
Well, you do that periodically by resolution. So now that you have information on the current cost, you may want to incorporate that in a revised resolution you adopt with the organization.
What's that?
The town already
We've
has a
been awful
resolution
on
about
collecting,
stewardship.
not awful, we've not been
endowment.
effective at collecting endowments, so.
But you already have a
Susan, they're saying
resolution.
for future,
It should be
accepting
updated.
future
has-
property conservation
No,
easement,
I don't.
looking at it at $45 an acre for a baseline minimum.
And then I think the monitoring, though, would change, though. So like monitoring, I'll use the example, there's one out by Plains Road near me. That monitoring, that one is not too difficult, it's accessible, but then there are some where you may go monitor out by the Humboldt, and that requires boots and equipment, and that would have a higher cost, I would imagine.
I don't see that one on here.
Something out by the Humboldt?
Yeah, don't we have a,
Well, the one on the Wallkill.
oh, we have the one in the Walkill?
The Poison Ivy Park.
Oh, that,
Oh, that's your own fee land that the Wallkill Valley Land Trust holds the conservation easement
Oh,
of.
you guys, okay,
excellent.
that's much better.
Right.
I say,
That's all good.
I got 62 acres, I could,
Sign our easements to you?
There's surprisingly little poison ivy out there on that one, and it's a
Really?
wonderful birding
You gotta pay them for it, though.
Okay.
Which I don't mind, yeah.
all right, I think it's time for Laura's
Yes,
granddaughter.
okay, so thank you.
Well, thank you very much for
Thank you.
giving us some
Now, let me
great
ask a
information
question.
here.
Those two books, do those come back
You
to,
gotta
wait a
get
second,
back.
Kevin,
You
before?
know,
These are
I
like
have to
gold.
take
I
them
think she
back
needs to make
because
copies.
I need to also run them
You know
past
where we were.
Stacy and get signatures on the.
And then someday, maybe we can get Creo or
And then
someone to volunteer to put them
bring
online.
back.
For
We're
instance,
actually
do you
working
like
on getting
white
us-
binders?
you.
Would you
We're gonna
rather have
intern
green
scan
binders, you
That
know?
would be
What do you
great.
want?
So, but she's been working like crazy, you guys gotta get.
And
And Kevin doesn't understand that we do not let books like that go.
So,
Kevin, books like that.
Thank you for coming, guys.
Thank you to
Thank
our
you so much.
CWAS,
Thank you very
Land
much.
Trust,
thank you for
Open
asking.
Space.
It's nice to feel you care.
Oh, yeah, oh, absolutely.
Really.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, if different.
I take it water.
Quick
fill up my
bio break.
water. Okay.
And then we got Laura. Laura, come on up. Take a 2-minute bio break, so you can.
Okay, I have to say, Laura, your granddaughter is remarkable.
Just gonna keep poking her every time she starts singing.
Does she know the little troll dolls?
She's ever seen us. I used to love those.
Would you think she'd like one? I have one in my office, I can go get it for her. Excuse me while I go get a gift for a little girl. We'll be right back.
Some of this is from the Pleasant subdivision, which entails dedication part of the subdivision. Different colors.
That's it, it's all that it is.
They don't know.
She'd be real happy she could get online. She can't get that laptop.
I couldn't get online.
No. I wonder, as long as that Wi-Fi used to have to be blocked.
I will think about that and try to get everything.
I wonder, maybe.
Yeah, I've been sort of chipping away at this on my planning board.
But anyway, let's see what he has to say. Let's hear his justification. The fact that he has to do it behind closed doors in the middle of the night, you know he knows what he's doing. Are you heading where I'm heading?
Right. Right. Clean water.
What if they got me on Florida?
About, open space, but not the cluster subdivision.
Aren't they cool? Show Mr. Lithgow, he's never seen one. Give me a shirt time.
Yeah. Can you just do me a favor? When people are talking, like if Stacy's talking or whatever, just turn the camera together just so it's not.
I try to judge how long they're
Yeah.
That's how I used to do my Super 8 camera, and somebody goes, oh my God, I'm getting nauseous. And somebody would be like,
It'd be easier for everyone who spoke could come up here, that would be perfect, But somebody said that we're here, I can't. That's pretty easy,
Yeah, I did. So I made that mistake, not being a professional. I wonder, my uncle keeps bugging me. He wants the Super 8 film. He wants to see if we can get a digital for Susie, you're way too young. We used to have these movies.
They used to have these big reels that you run through a projector. So back in the 70s, I picked up a camera. I think it was
You're gonna be here for the finale?
But I've heard that you can take that film and put it on.
Kevin, wait a minute. You're leaving before you offer to take over my position on all of the environmental issues that I'm...
Thank you for all you've done.
Okay. Okay, and I know you'll carry on this. Okay.
We used to just sit here and do this, and this is before computers, and just...
Well, that's convenient. Isn't it? I mean, I just feel bad. It's really only
He's almost got taken care of.
Do you want to? No, it's okay. It's fine. No.
Just bring back memories.
I know, aren't they?
God, I haven't seen one of those.
I just gave that to her as a gift. I had it in my...
Troll,
Yeah, I
right?
have tons of them. Well, I don't have tons, but I have a bunch. And I had this in my office, and I just gave it to her because she's been so good. Because she's just so good that she deserves it, right?
If you don't want a grandma playing with that.
Does that one speak? Does that one, if you hit her stomach, does she say something?
I was pushing his butt.
I was just sitting there.
Way to go, Grandma.
Because it has a speaker in the back. Little.
See, she's pushing his butt too.
I guess not. So cute.
That's all you have to say. Just
Probably just need some bacon.
all right. You just have to say the word "but," and she bursts into laughter.
Is it the camera still on?
I don't know.
Oh, shit, I need you and Kevin to, or Jeff, you guys have to sign. There's a couple of vouchers that got through that didn't get signed. Some of yours and some of, you signed this one, so I gotta get Jeff. I can't remember, and Missy.
He's so cool. We could sell him clothes. You can knit him a scarf.
Okay, so let's, Jeff, it's now down to the three of us.
Kevin
Okay,
said
you
it wasn't going to last.
You have to sign this one, Kitty. Because Jeff signed that one, and this one.
Jean, this is
Yeah,
Jean.
Jean, these ones you've got to sign, and these ones,
The internet's not working.
you, Jeff, you'll have to sign.
That's fine.
Only because,
What is Endeavor? Endeavor.
the grant, it's the grant writer.
You know, I was looking through the warrant. I was thinking, wow, and they haven't even billed us.
Yeah.
There we go.
So, yeah, that's the bill. So, and, okay, so.
Did you sign some forms for him? Did you sign the new drug form and some of the assurances for the grant?
No, was I supposed to? I don't know, whatever.
Because that's what they've been asking me for.
Whatever they're asking for him, he gets, because I know I send him everything. Okay, so everybody knows that Laura has been doing this absolutely astounding job on creating a zero-waste plan for the town, an absolutely wonderful job. And what she wanted to do is have us adopt it. And we did do an executive summary. I think you all got a copy of it. I could read it, or...
Well, we got it.
So you all
The
got it. I have
executive
copies for the
summary.
press if you want it. I'll give you the whatever. And so what she wanted to do is ask us to actually adopt the plan. What I will tell you is that we did get recognized on a national level by the EPA. We were given an award through the EPA. There was an event down in the city 2 weeks ago that Judith Inc., the regional director for the EPA, was going to be awarding it, and Laura and I were supposed to go to the city, but there was a snowstorm, so we couldn't get there. So we actually have invited Judith Inc. to try to come up here and do something with us where she gives us the award up here, and we could actually then also meet with her a little bit more on the zero waste.
Do you have the, yeah?
Yeah, there's the
We should
executive
just
summary and
read
the...
a little bit
yeah.
of it aloud.
What I do want to just tell you is, yesterday I ended up going over to Frito-Lay, who actually got an IDA from the town, and the county's been came and did a review of all the companies that got IDAs in New Paltz, and Frito-Lay is doing this amazing, they have a zero-waste landfill program where they're getting everything out of the landfill, and they're doing very few pulls. of garbage, and it's really astounding what they're doing. And zero waste, so they're doing zero waste landfill. They're trying to get it to the point where they deliver nothing to the garbage. You know, they have all their stale product going back to feed animals. Their packaging they're starting to do where they actually biodegrade. They recycle all of their boxes, and they also just bought 5 electric trucks, massive trucks, and they have an electric vehicle charging station. And so I met with them yesterday and then talked about the zero waste plan and how it's great to know that there's a company in New Paltz that's actually working towards the same goal as us. So we're going to start to incorporate them more into what we're doing with the zero waste action plan as we actually build it and stuff. So
Phones are manufacturer's responsibility.
exactly, yeah. So while I guess Kitty's signing, do you want to read something?
Well, I just want to give Laura and her interns their due. I think what's really significant about here is the sentence which says, there's a wonderful sentence in here about zero waste initiatives could reduce greenhouse gases by nearly 142 metric ton carbon equivalent per year, making zero waste one of the most significant contributors to reducing climate change that New Paltz can influence at the local level. And I did not know that until you guys did all of this work.
Yeah.
So
when we
good
file
for you.
with the federal tonnage report annually, they give us back a savings as far as metric tons and climate change. And it's a significant difference because even if you are recycling, those materials are brought to us, then they're taken somewhere, and then they're processed and taken somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so as much as you can do locally to reduce that,
Right.
it impacts all the way around.
Yeah.
One of the things that we learned yesterday, which was amazing, you know, on those, for Frito-Lay, they have like packaging that puts in, I don't know, maybe it's got like, say, 50, little small packages of, their chips and whatever. If each route, two of those packages a week, every route being recycled, saves the company $1.4 million. That's just 2 packages each route a week. Recycled saves them $1.4 million. So as a business decision, that's one of the things that they were saying, as a business decision to basically get into this zero net landfill, to do all of this kind of environmental stuff is actually a good business decision. And then when they start to show you the math, it's like astounding.
So are you going to be able to take in and get out more stuff?
We have been. We're working on, and I think the best revenue for us right now is the reuse center. We actually had a local business submit a proposal for, sending out letters and information because he's kind of embraced it. He actually comes in and he's a user himself. I don't know if you want to discuss that one now or wait a little bit later, but we can. As far as taking in materials, yes, we can take in a lot more materials. As far as what we're sending out to the landfill, we've dropped that another 40 tons. So, and still we're maintaining the revenues. We're capable of doing whatever we need to do. It's a large site. There's 189 acres, so we can just keep expanding. It doesn't have to be high tech. So far, really, the biggest expense has been the new building, which we've been reimbursed in part for.
Right.
I don't think we've gotten in the last check for $47,000. So hopefully by the end of this year, if not next year. But it's all low tech, low expense. It's mostly hands, and that's what we need, are a couple extra set of hands out there.
Which we're going to work on.
Hopefully do tonight, right? Okay,
So let's make a resolution.
So,
And since I'm the liaison,
Yes, thank
my
you so
last
much.
official act, I can't tell you.
Wonderful working with you.
no, her last official act is the liaison to
As
the
the
recycling
liaison to the
center.
recycling center, where we've spent so many happy hours together. So I would like to make a resolution to adopt the Zero Waste Initiative crafted by our recycling coordinator, Laura Petit, and her interns.
Yes, and the many folks that we acknowledged in the very front, they were all a very large part of the creation of this document.
Okay. That's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? So we would like to say all in favor with internal gratitude to Laura and the team for the work that they've done on this plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sophia, grandma.
Okay.
See, I wasn't playing solitaire on the computer at night.
Well, so let's move forward. Let's try to get through some other stuff so we can do something at the end, Laura, that you might want to be here for. So some of the other stuff can go pretty quickly. So Jeff, do you want to do the police commission next, since that might be the only other thing that some of the people in the audience really care about?
You were here the first time for this.
First time trying here.
This is for, and I'll hand this out, and I apologize, there are a few, actually I got a few of them. And you can hang on to that one. George can look over her shoulder if you want.
It's okay.
This is for, actually, it's interesting. It's almost 2 years to the date now. We're revisiting something Kitty will remember.
I thought it was, yeah, right. Look.
Yes, it was 2 years to date. So I apologize. In this, there are some actually incorrect, a couple incorrect names in there, which we can then go back and correct. But back in 2011, I was looking to get rid of our current police commission, and then by state law and under GML, we then default to become the police commission. My reasons for this actually have not changed. They are the same as they were back then. It does not have to do with anyone on the police commission. We have Ira here as one of the members, and I believe you were a member then also when I did 2011. And you and I had discussed it. It has to do with really the number one reason, and again, it's the same one I'm going to use as the number one, which is it represents about 40% of our budget, and we are abdicating a huge part of our budget over to a non-elected body. I know they do not have direct budget duties or responsibilities, but certainly the actions that we have given the powers to the police commission does affect our budget. So they have they can approve the hiring, they can approve the promotion. There are many parts that they can approve. And so what we are doing is we are having part of our fiscal house being directed by a non-elected board. If something goes wrong, we're the ones that are going to be held accountable for it. And so I really do believe this is something we should be held accountable for, is the running of the police department. The day-to-day operations would still be obviously in the hands of the chief. It just simply would change over the roles and responsibilities of the police commission to the town board. I did look around. If you look at Ulster County, Saugerties has a police force, no police commission. Lloyd Police Force, no police commission. Sopus Police Force, no police commission. Lattikill, Ardonia Police Force, no police commission. And there's a small force down south of us called New York City, and they do not have a police commission. So somehow we are able to, the function of a police commission may have had its time, but now that it has grown tremendously and our expenses are going to continue to grow, we do not know what's going to be happening with healthcare, for example, over the next couple of years. And personnel is the largest line in our community, just about, when it comes to expenses. And we really are, that's what we're held accountable for. And I believe this is a means to hold us accountable for our police department.
I would only say that when I first came on the board, Ira still, 12 years ago, Ira was a faithful attendant at every one of our meetings and complained loudly about the way certain operations of the police department were handled. And, when we appointed you to the police commission, I think that we hoped that this commission could act in the place of the town board, and we learned that it can't. And I think in many instances you were as frustrated as we were over the kind of collision between your responsibilities and ours. And there are just certain actions that need to be taken that were frustrating, confusing for both the town board and the police commissioners. And I don't want any current commissioner to think that this in any way reflects our lack of confidence in the job you've done. I think it's our lack of confidence in the job. And I think you have all performed in an exemplary fashion.
Jeff, there was just one police department that you left out, which was the town of Ulster, and they do have a police commission, and it's a town board.
Well, actually, and you do bring up a valid point. I mean, anyone that has a police force by law, it's 150, 154, 155. All the 150s are all covered that you do have a town board if there is not a police commissioner or a police commission, that the town board defaults as the police commission. So simply by law, we do. There actually is another good reason, too, when it was brought to our attention, and he made it kind of as a passing remark, and then I know, Susan, you and I followed up on it very briefly down in the town of Wallkill when it comes to discipline actions with police officers. There was a test case that ended up in our Wallkill, Ulster County, Wallkill, New York. And what it does is it allows the town board to enact discipline procedures. It would still, and this is within the force, it still would be maintained within the force. It would still use the chain of command. They would go to their chief. Then if there is no resolution, then it does go to the town board. And there are actually two chapters, 154 and 155. We need to modify our town law to mirror them, but then it gives us the powers also to help support, and then actually ends up, it really supports your chief. It allows your chief to then be the end say.
Well, I think what we found out today with that law is that actually what it does, it's not really trying to usurp, like the PBA contract, but it actually gives the board more power in discipline actions as opposed to being bound by a contract and by the PBA contract. So
I think by extension what Susan's saying is actually true, and I think Ira would find it interesting is the test case, which was just literally a couple years ago down in Wallkill. It actually, what it did is it does, Susan uses a valid term, it doesn't change the PBA contract, but it does give powers of discipline that may or may not be spoken to in the PBA contract, and does not make the PBA the final say of what the conduct, what it was, and what the penalty may be for it. It allows the chief and the town board to make the town board would make the final decision, and it goes from there.
Are you contemplating a citizens review board or?
That actually, actually, and in a couple I looked at, that actually there was a community near us that actually disbanded, actually changed their local law and got rid of their police commission, and it's called the Police Advisory Committee. Which I believe, I lived here, obviously, and you lived here, and Susan lived here when the police commission was first formed. And the original intent of it, I think we have lost a part of that, and again, it is nothing, no reflection, Ira, you're here, it's no reflection on the current police commission. You guys have done an incredible job. It has definitely changed a lot just in my time, and improved a lot of the efficiency just in my time on the board in watching the police commission. But it originally was set up, and correct me if I'm wrong, as a watch group.
That's what we thought it was going to be.
There you go.
That's what we thought. We thought it was going to be a place where citizens and residents could bring complaints to an objective, party that wasn't in any way really connected to the police department.
So then, Kitty, to answer your question, what we do is we create through resolution, not through law, a police advisory committee, which we appoint the members to, we appoint a chair to, and then citizens can go to them. The system right now is a little interesting. It goes to the police commission then brings it to the chief. No? Okay. Well, there's the problem right there.
Right.
We don't know what it is. There's the problem right there. I can give you 4 different answers. So what it would be is it goes from the police advisory, and there we have found the problem, right, attorney? There you go. It would go from the police advisory committee, it would go directly to the town board, which would be which would be the police commission. And then the police commission would then decide on how to act on it, whether we need to seek outside counsel on it, whether we needed to go to the chief on it, and how it would then go there. So yes, that absolutely would be, when we pass the law, we would then set that up. That mechanism we can't set up till we pass the law.
You have to set a public hearing date?
We have to set a public hearing date on it. This is the actual law that Joe Moriello wrote. This is the same one from 2011. In speaking to Joe, nothing has changed except for the names and dates in it. That would be the only changes that would be made. The language in it is exactly the same. The last piece of it in doing this, and this comes from also in speaking to 2 attorneys, and I have a third one here, so maybe we could even ask a third one, but I don't know yet. No, stop it too.
Talk to me about seeker.
Okay. I'll come back to you on seeker. Is also what I would also like to do is, since we will be taking over the duties of the police commission, I would like to have the police commission currently serves the police commission serves the town board at our pleasure. So what I would like to do is have that pleasure end on December 31st, and January 1st, that pleasure would then become the town board. We would then be the police commission. We would assign ourselves as the police commission, because it's going to take us probably, if we set a public hearing, we hold the public hearing, close the public hearing, it's still going to be probably February by the time we get this actually passed as a law.
Can you do what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Before you do?
Yes, and that comes from...
Public hearing, you've already decided.
No, that's not
That's
a...
what
No.
you just said.
Well, no, it's 2 separate items. These are separate items. The first item is that our police commission serves at the pleasure of the town board. So the town board is, we no longer are, the pleasure of the town board then becomes having us become the police commission, and then we will pass this law. But again, it's going to be 30, 60 days out. And reason being, if we're going to do this, let's do it now. Let's start our new year with our new board as the police commission. If we're going to do it, let's do it. And that comes from, if I had actually, I could have actually contacted 4 attorneys, but I did speak to Kevin about this, and he was fine with that. It does make sense to go in. If we're going to go into a new year, go into it now, because we're going to be taking responsibility for this one way or the other. And just so everyone knows why we did take the rest from it too, and Kevin, I wish Kevin was here, but Susan is here, is, I did bring it up in 2011. I thought that we had full support. There was some debate on it, and I let it go. Susan then asked me to have the new board members the opportunity to work with the police commission, the police department, and I agreed. I said I would wait. I've waited. So I am now going to bring this up 2 years later again to...
Well, I'll just in fairness,
Yeah.
because Jeff did bring it to the very first meeting that the new board had 2 years ago, and I did say to Jeff that I didn't think it was really fair to try to dissolve the police commission without giving Jean and Kevin the opportunity to experience a commission and be on the board and be a town board member, and myself, but I was revisiting, reliving, so been there, done it, and I had worked with the police commission before when George Campbell was chair and stuff, so I had my experience, but I didn't think it was fair to Kevin or to Jean to have to make a decision at their first meeting without the experience. It is 2 years later, and why, without them being here tonight, Jeff feels comfortable bringing this forward because they both, after 2 years of having a police commission and being board members responsible for a town that has a large police department, that's a big portion of the budget, that they sort of both feel that they don't know what's going on, they should be more involved, we oversee this budget, and that yes, indeed, that the town board, we're gonna get the blame, we should have the responsibility, and so they did want to move forward when Jeff requested doing this, they agreed that they did want to move forward.
Yes, yeah.
And so,
Jean is the liaison.
Yes.
to the
Yes, and
commission,
I've spoken, Jean
She's
is,
okay with that.
Jean is
Yes,
absolutely,
okay.
yeah, Jean is good. Because again, we are taking the responsibility for it, so she would like to see us continue.
so the interesting thing is, in a way, to address what you're saying, Ira, in a sense, it's a public hearing with the decision made, not per se necessarily. But no, let me explain, because I did have the conversation with Jeff after he's been bringing this up and talking, and I was saying to Jeff, well, if we dissolve the police commission, we're just a town board, and the town board acts, the town board oversees the police. Right. However, like in the town of Ulster, the town board is the police commission, and they actually hold their meetings independently of their town board. They have a police commission meeting where the town board is at the table, going over the budget, going over the issues, going over the problems and whatever, and they act as a commission. And so they separate their town board duties and just do their police commission duties, which gives them the time to then really focus on the police versus having it on the agenda of a town board meeting when you don't give its due diligence kind of stuff. So I was saying to Jeff, maybe the first step is to have us be the commissioners, and then we can hold these commission meetings and take the time to determine whether or not we should really be getting rid of the commission, or maybe we don't want to get rid of the commission, but we want to reconvene it in a different way with roles and responsibilities. And so that's, that sort of takes a slower way. And then you do have the public hearing. There are a lot of people in the public that do want to see the commission gone and have been complaining about the fact that, you're the town board and we should be able to come to you and we should be able to talk to you about the police. And if they come to me and talk to me about the police, I say, I don't know anything, because nobody talks to me about the police because I'm not the commission, and so people get very frustrated, I know, when they come to me and I can't answer their questions, there's frustration. So I was saying to Jeff, in some ways, well, if we stay if we're the commission, then we can take our time to whatever. So yes, if we have a public hearing, the decision hasn't been made, it's, so in fairness to Jeff, his decision might be made, but
The only thing
The problem is, and I've said this before, sitting on the commission, I think we've done a lot of positive over this, compared to the way it was. We don't do hiring and firing, we recommend, and that's a big difference. And you can't say we do hiring and firing, we don't. We recommend based upon an interview and an observation of the people who want the position, as opposed to the way it was done. If you were politically connected, you got the job or you got the thing, and had no bearing as to whether or not you were the best qualified. That's number one. Number two, we don't control the money. You do. You're the people that created the $4 or $5 billion budget, not the police commission. We have very little say in what goes on in the money, all right? My biggest problem in what you're saying is you people are going to take away the protection of the citizens to validate if they have a problem with your police department. Because it will be a political police department run by politicians. It will not be independent. If somebody likes Harry and doesn't like Sam, and Harry comes with a complaint, that will be handled. Sam will be told, take a hike. And there's no place anybody can go. It's not impartial. I believe that the biggest key, forgetting everything else, as those of us in the commission have said before, we don't need the headaches of, firing, hiring, or whatever, but we do it because it's part of our mandate to protect the residents from what I used to call bullies with badges when I used to, follow it out, because that's how they get in. There's no oversight. There's nobody. If you recall, the old commissions just used to, the chief, the old chiefs, Haffers, Bone, wanted Harry, got Harry. The commission, you people were part of that one discussion we had where the commission didn't want to accept somebody, and we had the reasons, and we explained the reasons. Under your scenario, he would have gotten on. There's no question in my mind that he would have been.
I disagree with you, Ira, from the perspective of, okay, and you said it, there were there was a police commission over the years, whatever, did whatever the chief wanted.
Right.
Okay, so maybe recently there was a batch of commissioners that didn't. That doesn't mean down the road there couldn't be another batch of commissioners that go back and do the same exact thing, okay?
I'm not arguing.
And so simultaneously, and then also simultaneously, while we might be elected how do I, there's connections and friends and people, whether you're elected or you're not elected. And so as a police commissioner right now, you can have preference to somebody or have a problem with somebody just as well as anybody on the board can have. So I think to say that politics enters into, if there's no oversight at all, yes, you're right. That, at the end of the day, somebody get a job because the chief, is related to that person or likes that person. But Jeff's not suggesting taking away the oversight. He's actually just saying that the oversight should be with the elected officials who are held accountable at the end of the day. So it's not saying that there's not going to be oversight, and unfortunately we're going to be the ones with the headaches and we're going to be the ones with the grief, kind of stuff. And my job is going to get a hell of a lot harder tonight if this ends up going through. But I mean,
Well, I know, but I think it's...
You'll ignore it.
Well, no, and actually, no, Ira, and
That's
we-
unfair
this isn't,
again.
we can do that in a public hearing,
Yeah,
but I
please,
think
yeah.
one, just to address it, one is, at no time, if you noticed when I spoke, did I say that you had any fiscal responsibility. I did not say that. I said you do... Yes, okay, so I will do the same thing then. I will recommend that we put this law in, okay? If you want to use the word recommend, I'm fine with that, that's fine. But you recommend hiring and firing. If you recommend hiring and firing, that directly affects the budget of this community. So whether you want to use recommend or you just do it, that's fine, because we are not going to change that. It is the chief who has got the ultimate responsibility. The town board will have the responsibility of the hiring and firing, as they do in most other communities. In fact, it's very nice. I look forward, I will use the example of over in the town of Lloyd, every time they get a new officer, they actually have it in a newspaper. He actually goes to the town clerk over there, he actually signs that he is now joining, and it's actually a very nice piece, and it is the town board that does the actual end hiring. So that possibly will change. As far as when, Bill has a problem with Harry, and if I use the names wrong, I apologize. But I find that very interesting, because after sitting on this board now about to start a third term, I've never heard about Bill not liking Harry, and I find that troubling as an elected official here. Those are the things that we should know about. I find it troubling if we do have bills not liking Harry, and those are what we are elected to watch. So that would be another. The other piece is, since I've been on this board, I've been asking for real reviews of our lieutenant, which we don't have one right now, but of our past lieutenant and of our chief. That is a responsibility of the police commission. I've never gotten one. The best I ever got was a document with numbers all over it and columns that were not identified, who rated them, what the numbers meant, and later to find out one of the columns was populated by the chief himself. Well, okay, that doesn't work. So another part is then the town board now will be doing reviews with the chief. We will be seeing the chief and doing job performance reviews. If we do have a lot of incidents of Harry not liking Bob, that would be reflected in the chief's review, and I would like to see how those things were handled. There are many functions that we are completely out of touch with the police, and I'm not saying it's the commission's fault. I will take the blame as a member of this board, but I just find it very difficult to go and interact with the chief at times when the chief will say to us that, well, this is who takes care of it, or here's where I've given the report to. It's in the police commission report. Go see the report. We're adding a layered management. If you look at anything that has been successful in change in any of the corporations that have succeeded over the last 15 years that have survived, one thing is flattening out your management. And to me, and my view could be completely wrong, and I can be proven wrong, the police commission is an added layer in between that insulates this town board and future town boards from interacting more closely with the chief and with the rank and file of the police department. And I look forward to having the chief and the rank and file to understand that this board here does want to interact with them and be equal partners with them in running the police force, which is one of the largest budget items. And I understand why it is. It's also a 24/7 operation. And I do understand that, and I respect that tremendously. But this board here needs to be active in that. I'm very happy to hear, Susan, not once in any conversation I've had with her about this, has once been what the past supervisor's biggest problem with it was. And I remember, what our biggest problem was? It's too much work and I don't want to do it. Now, not once has Susan ever said that to me. What she has said is, wow, this is going to be more work. She doesn't complain it's going to be more work. She just knows this is going to be more work. And there's not a single member of this board, and the new one coming on January 1st, he'll learn it, but he won't know any different, so it'll be good. He won't know different. And I agree, this is going to be more work, Ira. I'm not debating that. The police commission puts in a lot of hours. Is it going to add to the hours that I give to this community? Absolutely. And that's what I signed up for. It's why I do public service. It is why Kitty did 12 years, and I don't know.
Did 12 years, it sounds like a jail
Soon to be joining me in the 12.
Yeah,
I just want to point out one thing. What actually Jeff wanted to recommend is he wanted to make me the police commissioner, which would have given me an incredible amount of power. And I said to Jeff, I have a real problem with that, because what I've seen in the past, prior to the commission getting started, and part of the reason the commission got started in some ways is because you had a lot of supervisors and chiefs creating an alliance that was a little unhealthy and a little too close, and at the detriment of the board and at the detriment of the police department and the community. And while I said to Jeff that I feel very confident that I share everything and anything with the board and don't keep anything from them, I'm not going to be here forever. And so to make a supervisor, the commission is giving too much power to one person, and I wasn't happy accepting that responsibility, and I felt it was really important that the entire board, if we keep a commission and we want the board to be the commission, it's the entire board, and that I didn't want to be appointed the commissioner, even though if I was power hungry, I would say, thank you, Jeff, that's great, and I would have run with it. And me and Jeff had long conversations about me, actually probably within Jeff's resolutions in here, probably does say appointing me as commissioner.
I don't have that. I did have a resolution, which we won't do till later.
Yeah,
that would be later on. But I mean, and I did speak to several other towns, and Susan and I spoke to some towns, and one of them said, "Oh God, no, don't do that." When it came to because it is part of the law, you can appoint a police commissioner. Traditionally, it would be the supervisor, and said, "Don't do that." You want to keep the power amongst those elected to hold the purse strings and watch your community, and that would be us.
So,
Just say again,
the only thing that...
Taking away the protection of the citizens, because there's no place that they're going to be able to go.
Well, that's not true. If we create the Citizens Advisory Board, that's exactly what you will do.
He said that town board would have power over the citizens.
No. What he was saying,
appoint one.
No, what he was saying was, you're wrong. What he was saying is there's a Citizen Advisory Board. What has to be very carefully done, though, what Joe Morello said was you have to be very careful, though, is you don't want to give a group of citizens the power to investigate the police. Okay? So you don't want a group of citizens having the power to do an investigation. You have a Citizens Advisory Board that the public can go to, lodge a complaint, feel comfortable. Then there's a mechanism in place that has to be worked on, that then that complaint comes to the board at a certain point for the board to decide what action has to be taken. So it's not that there's still... that there won't be a protection for the public, which is what Kitty's saying when the intent was to create the police commission to begin with, was with that in mind. I don't think it was ever created with the understanding that the board was abdicating their responsibility to non-elected officials to run the police department. But when you establish a commission, that's what you do by law and stuff. So yes, how you create this citizen advisory committee that's there for the community is absolutely the goal of what Jeff is recommending. It's just has to be done cautiously, and it has to be done thoughtfully, which is why...
I think in fact that will give the residents of our community a much greater sense of confidence that this is a completely objective, independent board. I mean, I was shocked when we had a local resident who actually called me to her house because of an altercation with a neighbor who knocked her down. She called the police. They wouldn't let her file an assault charge. She was beside herself. I mean, photographs and all that sort of stuff. And I said, go to the police commission, which she did, where we both learned that the only power you had was to take the complaint to the chief. You know, you just hand the complaint over to the chief for his investigation. And up until that moment, I thought, that you did have some powers of your own investigation. And the only time that would have happened was if you found the chief to be in gross violation or negligent in his pursuit of a disciplinary action. So I think actually I'm very hopeful that the present commissioners will stay on as the advisory board if this is what happens. My only concern is that I'm a little bit uncomfortable about disbanding the board at the end of this year without having given them any prior notice. So I would like to suggest that perhaps we could extend their terms until the end of January, and at their pleasure, they could decide if they want to meet in January or not.
I'm fine with it, and again, that recommendation came just from, speaking to another supervisor and speaking to our attorney.
Okay.
Actually, both our labor attorney and speaking to, our board attorney. And they thought, if you're going to do it, separate it sooner than later. But I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
so yeah, absolutely, if you want, go to
I would
January
feel better about
31st and that.
And you can choose if you want to have a meeting in January. But I feel uncomfortable.
Not up to me.
Well, I mean, it's
No,
up
I'm
to you
just
and your
saying,
fellow commissioners.
It's, that's up to basically the chair, he's the one who sets that,
Okay.
not the commissioners.
So Jeff, do you want to, how do you want to set your, what do you want to?
Well, one for the local law filing, or to change the local law is,
Set a public hearing?
yeah, set a public hearing date on the proposed law. So it would be a local law to rescind Chapter 30, a local law to repeal Chapter 34, which is the police commissioners. So it would be a local law to repeal Chapter 34, Police Commissioner Board of, in the code of the town of New Paltz. So I'd like to set a public hearing for that in January, and it would be January,
Do January 26th because,
or
well, I don't want to do the 3rd because. 23rd.
either the 16th or the 23rd.
The 23rd because we're going to be doing our organizational meeting earlier and,
You have a public hearing on the 23rd.
yeah.
already.
You just held over.
But we actually, that's true, but we don't know yet for the moment what we're going to be doing with that public hearing because the sense I got from the conversation tonight was, I know we extended the public hearing, but really the sense I got was we really want to revisit what we're doing with the,
I think we're going to need it, we might end up having a special meeting before we have that,
Yeah.
to look at the law.
Right, right.
We might have to change, so
Yeah.
that's a different discussion.
well, we could do it on the,
Do it on the 16th.
okay, I mean, sure.
Is that,
Yeah.
is there anything, you want to do it at 7:15?
7:15?
Is that good? Okay, we have nothing else.
Okay, so you want to make that motion, Jeff?
So moved.
Kitty, do you want a second?
The date of the public hearing?
Do the motion to set a public hearing for January 16th to repeal Chapter 34?
Sure.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye, motion so carried. Then Jeff, you want to make a motion for
Make a motion that the, let's see, so, make a motion that the town, I don't know how that motion would, I'll look at an attorney, but,
Wondering what
the,
yeah.
it has to do with,
you want to introduce the local law? No?
no, I don't need to introduce the local law, right, until,
what he was trying to get to is that the police commissioners serve at our pleasure, so he wants them to serve at his pleasure till January 31st.
Ah.
And then he wants to appoint the town board as acting police commissioners.
So the current term expires at the end of this year?
Well, they serve at pleasure.
they serve at the, well, no, the terms are,
The terms don't expire.
They do have.
Well, most of them,
Your terms.
yeah, most of the terms.
they're different terms, yeah, based on, so, I mean, yes, there
Three
are,
of them,
there
three
are
of them
two
are
of
actually
them.
expired.
There are,
Actually, the majority of the board is expired. So there's 3 members that expired, have expired, and are expiring.
and they continue to
They're
serve.
expiring at December 31st, and there's one, as you know, that you don't know what's going
Right.
on with.
There's 3 that expired December 31st and 1 that resigned. right?
I never saw the paperwork, so I
No,
don't know.
well, I got an email saying he
You
resigned.
did? Okay,
Yes,
I never saw
yeah.
it. Nobody ever said anything.
So anyway, the
No,
point
there's
is
an
that
email to-
there's,
yeah.
What I would
So
suggest,
technically, there's no
There's-
real police commissioners,
There's
other than one.
There's just one.
you want them to serve until January 31st.
Well, no, they're expired, yeah, I'll give you
You
the,
want to have the service terminate on that date, and I would suggest you ask Joe to draft a resolution that implements your,
okay, so I will.
draft, memorialize your resolution.
but technically, we're gonna be doing appointments tonight. I thought Carol gave me.
Well, you don't need to make appointments to any, I mean, they all serve.
No, I know
until-
that, I'm just saying that there was 3 police commissioners whose,
3 expired at the end of this month?
they expired.
Not a very good
Expired, and there's an
job of
incumbency.
staggering.
That was Tony.
Yeah.
She set it up that way. She violated the law because
If there's
the
an
law
incumbent-
specifically says
Wow.
how to do it. She decided she didn't like that, so she made 1-year term here, another 1-year expired.
Wow.
Okay, so technically, because we have a bunch of appointments that we should do tonight, because they all want to get appointed before the end of the year. So technically, Ira is up on January 1st,
No,
Amy Cohen is up on oh, no?
that, they've all expired 12/31/13. That's if you.
Oh, okay,
appoint-
so Ira expired, Amy expired, Bruce expired, and Amy, Ira, and Bruce expired, and.
We have an empty seat.
And Steve Farina resigned.
We have an empty seat.
Oh, right.
So technically,
If you have an expired term,
yeah,
and you have an incumbent, and there is no new appointment, the incumbent holds over
Yes.
Yeah.
until such time
Right.
as you appoint.
But there's
Right.
only one incumbent
There's only
holding
one.
over.
Well, you said you had 3 expired.
no, he's saying that until we do anything, they just sort of
Oh,
hold
I
over.
see.
He's saying they
Basically,
hold-
like, you used to appoint in April.
Right.
and those
Right, right.
That would sit there until the new appointments came,
Aye.
which is why we never did anything.
I'm not helping.
No.
Request.
Well, I don't want to, because it would be to end all terms of the current police commission effective January
So just let the terms
31st.
expire. All right.
The current members would cease their service as of
January 31st, and I could have Joe memorialize that in an actual one, but that would not, but yeah, that would be correct.
All right, well,
Yes.
then I think I might withdraw my friendly amendment because I didn't realize how many of these terms had expired.
Because, I mean, we can also appoint, the town board would then appoint itself as the police commission, Kitty. Which was,
right.
that was the intent and suggestion that given to us by Joe, and I'm just wondering, now with 3 expired, with 3 expired terms and an open seat,
Well, your intent is that the commission continue to perform its function until January 31st.
well, originally December 31st, which now Kitty is rethinking, so if I did it till December 31st, their terms would just expire.
But they act in that capacity. Our tradition has been that if you're in an unexpired seat,
They, lack of a better term, there's no sunset yet. It's an evergreen, so to
Yeah.
speak, because they
Yeah.
continue on.
Technical term is hold over.
Hold over, yes.
I mean, I honestly, at this point, do you think it makes a difference one way or the other if you hold over till January 31st, or?
Personal opinion, all I can say is that's the decision of the chair, not me. Like I said, my only concern has always been the protection of the, and that's, still has the concern I have. I expressed it, and it's,
you know what? I'm completely at a loss about what to do. I feel like they should have one last opportunity to meet, but it seems really only just as a courtesy. I don't know if we should drag you out on a January night when really your mission seems over.
All I can say, and again, I don't feel one way or another, but the commission is in the middle of doing some research right now, some things within our domain to check efficiency and what's going on with the police department. I don't know if those involved, whether you want to continue, I don't know if they want to have that as a final document for the police commission as to whether or not these performances that are supposed to have been done are done.
So do you think there's any chance that could be ready by January?
It's supposed to be, unfortunately, it was supposed to be ready a while ago, but due to circumstances beyond the control of the two commissioners responsible for it, the two of them couldn't get
So,
together.
all right.
I volunteered to step in because I know how it's done.
All right, so I'm going to keep my
I don't know.
original suggestion and ask that you have your January meeting if this report is
Yeah.
ready.
Well,
And,
and-
that,
and
if you want to hand that research over, if the commission is disbanded, that would be great and accepted with appreciation.
Because there's no way that we're gonna finish the research we're doing now, that's just gonna
Right.
drop.
Right.
So
just-
there is, I'm just taking a look, the 12th, I don't know. So you didn't schedule one for January yet, but I guess you would probably, usually you do it the first, I just want to see
It's
it.
the
Well,
second.
it's
Well, it's not that you haven't
Yeah.
scheduled it, I think the,
Scheduled
for some
second or
reason on the internet computer, the meetings for next year are not on there yet. She hasn't posted them
Oh,
yet,
never
so
mind.
that's why there's no meetings
Never
on there
mind.
yet. So, yeah, so everything has to
Get
get
a quorum
posted.
at that meeting.
What?
She don't even know if we would get a quorum.
You might not have a quorum.
Right.
That's right, because Steve Farina's officially resigned as of the beginning of December.
I said that I wasn't advised.
Yeah.
I was just advised that he was thinking.
Oh, no,
All
no,
right,
he
so
would.
we need to.
Okay, so move on, yeah.
So, I mean, then, am I,
Okay, so you're making a motion for the town board to constitute the police commission as of January 31st?
so moved.
Well, no, you're moving it.
He just moved it.
So
Okay,
moved,
you're
yeah.
seconding it?
Yes.
Okay, any more discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried.
All right.
Okay, do you want to, since we're on appointments, just do this really quick? We have these appointments. Jim Little.
Is there anything else
Yeah.
that George is here for?
Well, George was really just hanging out.
George is
We need to clap for the accessory.
Oh, okay, so you want to do
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
So you want to do that?
George is
Let's
just here
do
for a
that.
party,
He's
that's it.
he's just here at this point to, because he likes us. Okay, so I don't think I have the accessory apartment in here, but it doesn't, for some
He's on
reason,
our website.
but it doesn't matter, we
Well,
just have
we've
to make a
had
motion to.
many versions of it, and Stacy, Stacy and Kevin went
Yeah, but
back.
whatever we had, whatever version we did, we had to close the public hearing, we had our corrected version, and we just agreed to hold off on passing it with you being here, so you had the honor of voting on it.
Oh, lovely, okay.
So all we need is a motion to,
To adopt seeker and then to adopt the local law.
Thank you. So, do we need a seeker?
You have a seeker form. And upon consideration of that form, which I presume you do know, everyone does not need to read it because you're so well versed in seeker.
So, this is an unlisted action?
Would be an unlisted action.
And, so do I read the, I've never done an unlisted action.
Oh,
So-
Well, it's basically upon consideration of those factors that are listed on the back page.
So should I read them?
And I think you know them well enough to
Okay.
conclude that this action will not have a significant impact because it basically adopts, it's revising the existing provisions to extend the ability to apply for apartments to homes that are 7 years or older, which was consistent with the original law, but that law was fixed at one point in time.
Okay.
So now you have a rolling threshold,
Now, what you said 7, right?
7.
Now, I remember seeing, and I apologize, the comments that we got from the county,
They were of the opinion that it should just be available to everyone, and I think that was not your intention.
That wasn't our intent.
Right.
They totally
So-
misunderstood our
Right.
intention.
do we need to have a supermajority then?
No,
No.
To-
those
okay.
are advisory comments,
Right.
and not binding.
Okay, thank you. That's the one, that
That
was
was
the other.
just their opinion.
Okay, thank you.
So, under seeker, we have determined that this action complies with the goals and objectives of the town comprehensive plan, will not have any adverse impacts on the environmental characteristics of our town, and is going to apply in all zoning districts within the town that allow single-family residential uses, And so under the unlisted action seeker assessment form, we find that there will be no adverse
It does not
impact.
create the potential for a significant adverse environmental impact, and no environmental impact statement will be required. Not to put the words in.
I'm just a ventriloquist, right? So do we make a motion to adopt that statement, or?
Yeah, make a motion to adopt negative declaration
Okay,
for the reasons.
okay. I make a motion to adopt the negative declaration.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Now you can make your motion to adopt.
So, with enormous gratitude to our building inspector, to our planning and town board attorney, to my colleagues on the town board, I make a motion that we approve the accessory apartment code amendment.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion so carried.
Yay.
Wow. Woo! Man, what do you have to do in this town to get something passed?
For me.
That was what? That was what?
I said it took my whole career to do.
Yeah, right.
It only took me coming back.
You're getting everything you've been
I'll
desiring.
tell
It
you,
only took
I am
me
going
years.
to walk out of this building and say, bucket list, check.
It only took me coming back, right, Kitty? It only took me coming back.
There, I'll
So I can
share
help
the
implement, so I
credit.
can help implement everything you wanted.
I will definitely share the credit. So,
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you.
yeah.
And I took 5 years.
Okay, sure.
Five?
Kitty, where's the secret document? We need to give it back to.
Thank you, George.
As once again.
Thanks,
George,
Thank you,
Stacy, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, everybody. That's Kitty's law. That's Kitty's law.
I thought the last one you passed had something to do with environmental Kitty's law.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the easements?
I don't
That's
remember
right.
what it was.
A year
but it
ago
was
this
something that you
time.
fought for years and
I
years.
think it was actually the endowments,
Something like
getting
that, yeah.
endowments for easements.
Okay, so Kitty's law has been passed.
All right.
Okay, we can whip through some of these others. What the Mountain View is about is, Mountain View Nursing Home is looking to relocate. They want to add 41 beds, and they,
Are they going for a pilot?
no, I don't know. They're writing, basically, they've, the site that they're at is really, really, really in bad shape and has outlived its cost prohibitive to change. They're looking to move to South Park Quarters Road. There's a spot there that they've looked at, but they basically had to apply to the State Health Department to get 49 more beds. They want to turn it into a new state-of-the-art 120-bed facility. So they were asking us to give a letter of support that goes up to the Commissioner of Health. Let me just read this a little bit because I think it's important, because it's a important facility for us, and they have a number of jobs there. We're writing to express, this would be the board. Dear Dr. Shaw, we're writing to express our strong support for the Mountain View Nursing and Rehabilitation Center's Vital Access Provider application, requesting funding to assist with the operational needs associated with closing this current skilled nursing facility and moving to a new state-of-the-art 120-bed SNF with capacity to provide multiple levels of care. The Mountain View's current facility located in the town of New Paltz has deteriorated to a point that renovations would be cost prohibitive and new facility is the best option. The Mountain View project would involve the addition of 41 beds in Ulster County. As you are aware, the RHCF need methodology indicates a need for 79 additional beds in Ulster County. There's also significant out-migration for skilled nursing services of Ulster County residents who are Medicare recipients. Medicaid recipients, I'm sorry. Many Ulster County residents seek service out of state or in neighboring counties. Although some of this out-migration may be voluntary, data supports the idea that there's insufficient capacity in Ulster County. And I think a lot of the seniors are going to Dutchess County because we don't have the facilities here. The expansion plan would not only benefit the senior population in and around the town of New Paltz and the southern tier of Ulster County, it will increase the availability of cost-effective, home-like SNF placement accessible to more diverse needs of local residents. The Mountain View's proposed facility would improve the availability of SNF beds in Ulster County and increase flexible, skilled nursing home options for Ulster County residents. Remaining retaining the Mountain View's presence in New Paltz is of high importance as well. The facility began as a family-operated 4-bed nursing home in the 1960s and has served the area's elderly population and provided job opportunities for local residents for more than half a century. It is anticipated that the expansion of the Mountain View would create the need for up to 40 new FTEs. This is particularly important due to the recent hospital closures and nursing home changes within Ulster County. Then it goes into some things about the flooding and the impact of flooding and how they want to stay in New Paltz and the job opportunities. We respectfully requested assistance you can provide in supporting this project. In addition to bringing jobs and economic development to the area, a new skilled nursing facility would provide increased local residential care opportunities for our elderly population. Please feel free to contact us if we can be further assistance. And it's from the supervisor and the board members. And the county already sent a letter of support, and I can't remember if the congressman sent a letter of support, but they feel really strongly that they feel that they serve the New Paltz community. They really don't want to move out of New Paltz. They really want to stay here. They need to get approval from the state for 41 more beds, and they're also applying for $4.9 million in a grant through this Vital Access Provider Program up at the state. So they had asked if the board would send a letter of support. And so I'd like to...
This is the first time hearing and reading about it, and is this a nonprofit or a for-profit?
I think they're not.
It is a for-profit. It's the old Blues Nursing Home.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a for-profit. The reason, and again, this just came from me just reading it today too, Kitty. So, what it is to make any type of money in this business, you need to have in excess. You need at least 100, 110 beds just to make anything. And what they're trying to do is to stay here. They're going to need to add beds, and they can't do it at that location. So it would maintain it as a for-profit.
And also simultaneously, I guess from what's happening, like Jeff was saying, for a nursing home to succeed, they have been creating these new ones where they do 3 pods, and I guess they break it out based on the needs of the residents, and they can serve them in a much more efficient way. So I'll just do a quick relocation and expansive project. Project summary: the Mountain View is seeking to close its current skilled nursing facility and move to a new location within the town of New Paltz. The current facility has 79 beds. The new facility would have 120 beds. The existing facility was originally constructed in 1939. Current deficiencies and code violations have a negative impact on resident quality of life and staff efficiency, and renovations of the space would be cost prohibitive. The current site is prone to flooding. They experienced severe service disruption caused by Tropical Storm Irene, and those issues cannot be fully remediated. In spite of the facility's physical condition, Mountain View is a well-established, well-administrated facility. Facility staff is long tenured and committed to serving the local community. Staff fully supports continuation of the Mountain View as a provider in the area. The new facility would have enhanced rehabilitation capabilities, the ability to care for more clinically complex and specialty patients, and the opportunity to provide outpatient rehabilitation, creating a continuum of care in Ulster County. The project itself would consist of the following components: construction of a new state-of-the-art 120-bed facility with expanded and more flexible rehabilitation gym and physician suite, the transfer of the current patients to the new facility, and demolition of the existing Mountain View structure. And then
So what would happen to that property where they are right now?
I think whoever owns
They would sell it.
They would sell it.
They own it. They bought that back from the Jareds.
They also currently employ 144 employees in New Paltz. So that's a...
I just think what is the name of the corporation? I just want to look them up in the assessment roll.
Capital Living.
No, McDonald's Road Corp.
McDonald's.
McDonald's Road
Corp.
Corp.
That's encouraging. Corp. MC Donald's or MAC?
I think it's MC.
MC Donald's.
I think.
And do we know if they will be applying for a pilot for this?
Well, I don't know if they will or not. Honestly, what I do know is they have 144 jobs in New Paltz, so that is job retention, that's for sure. But,
and so this would,
this is a letter.
would this piggyback on the new municipal water system that's going in?
Well, there's already water and sewer there. If they go to, the site that South Paconas that they're looking at, there's already water and sewer.
Because that's right there at the very beginning, right?
It's at the very beginning,
right
next
there,
to the
right,
DEC.
right, yeah, right across from the, right across from,
Oh.
almost across from the DEC you're
Okay.
looking at. You're right, you know, on the other
Okay.
side, so.
I thought they were the other end.
No, it's right next to the DEC. There's a piece of property right there that they've been looking at. This is the one that would work for, it has the water and sewer, and they could hopefully move over there and then open this place. I mean, I think, you know, it's supporting a business that's already here, that exists, and not losing it.
My
expanding.
only concern is if we're losing another piece of commercial, of currently vacant commercial property to a business that's going to go for a pilot. That's
Well,
my
you know,
concern.
they still have to go through it. Right now, they haven't even gotten the approval through the state to get the, so this is really asking the commissioner to grant them the ability to add 49 beds. So even if they left New Paltz.
That all sounds wonderful.
So this is really just getting ready to support to the commissioner to get 41 more
What is
beds.
their address?
Oh, it's Jansen Road, right?
Yeah, if we just look by their address.
What number is it?
1 Jansen. See what they're assessed at.
I have 50 listed for that. 50.
McDonald might be spelled MD.
No, it's okay. Let's see.
I'm
I'm
not
just
sure
trying.
one way or the other.
You can find it for me.
And what happened, Kitty, was I was asked through the county executive's office to give them a call because, you know, they wanted the support of the town to stay in the town. So I did call today, we spoke. She had asked for the letter of support. I said, well, you know, it's pretty late today, we have a meeting tonight, can we do this at our next meeting in January, you know, so we have more time? And she said if there was any way, if I got you stuff, would you be able to try to do it tonight? She said because it's, you know, the state, we're trying to get the state to approve this so we can move forward. So I said I would bring it to you guys.
Everything sounds terrific. I just, you know, I don't know anything about what their current assessment is. That's all. And I, and apparently we can't find
I'm having
it.
trouble finding it. I tried Jansen. You want to try a different search?
Huh.
No, so-
Ulster County GIS and see if you can pull it up. on
No,
the
it should be right in our.
It should be, I'm in our assessments.
I'll go with it.
Okay, so why don't, while Rosanna does that, why don't we, I mean, regardless what's gonna happen is if they're gonna move because they can't stay at that site. And, you know, it flooded from Hurricane Irene and whatever, and remember they had.
Yeah, I mean, the down-
They're gonna have to move from that site
And Kitty,
regardless,
I'm
so
with
we either keep them in New Paltz or they move out of New Paltz.
That
They're
is,
gonna leave
the
that site.
downside is that they're going to end up just leaving.
They're
New
gonna leave New Paltz, right now
They
they're
can't.
trying to do everything they can to stay in New Paltz.
That's not a viable model anymore, the model they have there. Want to move on to?
There's only one address.
I know, it's the
very
way it's
weird.
doing the search, isn't that strange? Okay, it wasn't me. Let me take a look. She's pulling it. So did you have something else you want to move on to?
Yeah,
We'll
let's
come
try
right
to move
back
on
to it.
really
Yeah.
quickly
We'll
to,
come back
the
to
Loop
that.
Field contract is really simple. This is just housekeeping. It's the contract with the college for the fuel. And actually, this is the contract for 2013. It's already done. It's just never actually came before us for us to approve. So it's really just record keeping to sign the contract and get it to them. But we've already, the 2013 is already over, and they've already given the fuel to, you know, this is the fuel that they give to the Loop bus, that the college gives to the Loop bus. So they've already given the fuel, the contract's already expired. It's just a matter of authorizing me to sign it, so for record keeping. So can I just have, we're gonna have to do this again next year.
Right,
For the
so
fuel, we'll do it sooner, we just got
I
it from the
move
college.
that the supervisor be authorized to sign the fuel contract with SUNY for the Loop bus.
Okay.
Second?
Rosanna's not here, so I realized I have to take the, somebody's gonna-
Okay.
Okay, so Kitty's making the motion, Jeff second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye, okay.
Okay.
Second? All aye. Okay, so we did that.
Everybody, thank you.
Okay, Rosanna, we just approved the
Wow.
Loop bus contract. Kitty made the motion, Jeff second, all in favor. And you want to award the bid document?
$3 million.
Who are we awarding this
What's
to?
this about? 3.3? Sounds about right. Right?
You've got checks next to, are we awarding?
Trying to get you to come up here, Chris. That was a subtle hint.
The check marks
That's who we want
indicate the highest bidders, and there's more on the back.
So how do you, so do we have to do this bid by bid? Or can we just authorize?
C2G.
Say again?
C2G. Seems like that's, I don't know, it seems like a fairly low assessment, but.
We just,
For 8 acres because you did.
Yeah, I recommend to the board that Gary
No, not even 70.
Kozowski
Oh,
right.
Oh, it's tiny. No, it's 70 something.
has the bid, the highest bid for the Airflow 2-yard
Okay.
gas sander,
Okay, he's just,
the Tarco 2-yard gas sander, and the Smith 2-yard hydro sander. He'd be awarded
that
the
should
bid.
go up.
okay. Do I have a motion to,
Oh, I'm sorry, and also the 89 Great Dane van trailer.
okay, so Chris is asking us to award the bid for all of the listed things to Gary Kozowski, because he was the highest bidder,
The ones with the check marks.
the ones with the check marks.
So moved.
Okay,
Do I have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion so carried.
And I want to thank, or
Okay, we're not done, we're not done.
Yeah.
Then to Liberty Motors, the 96 Chevy one-ton dump, the 06 Crown Victoria, and the 94 Chevy one-ton flatbed with a lift gate.
What'd you get for a 96? You got someone to give you $1,200 for a 96?
You should see the bids. They had this many bids.
I can't believe you got $888 for a 2006 Crown Vic with 400,000 plus miles on it.
I just put them out there, I don't buy them.
I want to thank you so much for
Yeah.
getting the, yeah, I mean, I'm very surprised that you get this. So I make a motion that we accept the bids from Liberty Motors for the 96 Chevy one-ton, the 2006 Crown Vic, and the 94 Chevy one-ton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried.
And lastly, Roger Davis for the 1991 Ford 555C backhoe. We take that bid.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion so carried.
And I just want, again, Chris, thank you very much for getting someone that was willing to give us $8,500 for a,
Yeah, our totals came to $13,925.05.
what would have your guess been by looking at them?
Scrap prices for the smaller vehicles, probably between $300 and $400 a piece. And the
Wow.
last bid we had on the backhoe, which I declined, was $3,500.
Wow.
So we did really well.
So
So
what about
thank
the
you.
Stephen Smith one? Are we,
That
Oh,
went
did-
to Gary Kozowski.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right.
Oh, we didn't, I apologize.
One more, Stephen Smith for the 1990 2.5-ton dump truck, $1,100.
$1,199.
$9. Recommend we take that
I'm
one.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion so carried.
Would you have to spend a lot of time showing them, or it was?
No, put it in the paper, and, I mean, we had a few people come by and look at it, a lot of phone calls. And away they went.
You know, I'm so used to saying all in favor because there's more than two people usually. Okay, so are you okay with authorizing me to send out that letter?
Yeah, I mean, we're not getting a whole lot of
It's only
revenue.
8 acres, so for 8 acres, for a garbage building, 3.3.
Well, it's,
Think about it. No, the building's done. Yeah, I've been there recently.
okay.
Yeah.
Right, oh, this is not a cash cow for the town.
Okay, so
It's,
let me just
thank you for
put this
bringing
in.
it, just everyone knows,
Thank you.
it's
Right.
$39,000 that I was surprised that it was,
So little to the town taxes?
Yeah.
Well, that's 39,000 total. Oh, yeah,
No,
town,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so we have a motion to authorize the supervisor to get a letter to the Commissioner of Health on behalf of Mountain View.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Kitty moved, Jeff second. Motion so carried. Okay, there's a fracking resolution, which is to basically ask the governor to support renewable energy and to do a moratorium on high-volume hydrofracking. This is coming from the elected officials to protect New York, and they've asked towns and counties all over the state to do this, and a number of communities have done this to basically try to get the governor and the legislature to start doing more renewable and continue a moratorium going into next year.
So moved.
Second?
second?
All in favor, motion so carried. Okey-doke. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else left.
Committee appointment.
Okay, we'll do the committee appointments. Okay, so, it would be Jim Littlefoot to the ENCB. But, okay, do we have, okay, if we're gonna reappoint Jim Littlefoot, what's the term? I see on the bottom you have all the Linda.
NCB is 2-year terms, so he would start 1/1/14 and expire 12/31/15.
Okay, so so a motion to appoint Jim Littlefoot, TNCB, till 12/31/15?
Well, wait,
What?
I have a question.
Okay.
If he's already expired, and you appoint him, or reappoint him now, does he just start a new term?
Then he would hold over, as George was saying, until the end of this year, and then he would begin his new term January 1st.
So he starts a new term January 1st
Yeah.
regardless, because he expired at the end of 2001.
Yeah, I mean,
And if you had reappointed him then, you would have had a 2-year term that would have expired
Now.
right now anyway.
Right.
So he starts a brand new term for the full 2 years.
I didn't realize there are only 2-year terms.
ENCB is 2 years. Each board and committees differ.
I have to say that,
We can change it.
again, unfortunately, Rosanna and Carol have been working since the beginning of last year, when they started working for the town to try to get a handle on the appointments of all the committees, when they were appointed, when they need to be reappointed. It's been a lot of work on both of their parts, and the goal is to pretty much at this point get it all organized in such a way, make sure everybody takes their oath of offices, everybody does their disclosure form, and that they also get notified, so we don't start to have any kind of, and what we're gonna do at the org meeting, I've already talked to Rosanna about this, we're gonna, through the organizational meeting, establish Rosanna with the one who actually notifies the people of their terms, because this way you're not depending on somebody in the supervisor's office who changes possibly every 2 years. And since she collects the disclosure form and she does their oath of office, she should be the one really, from soup to nuts, beginning to end. So do you want to just run through,
Yeah, so let's reappoint Tom O'Dowd to the CWAS committee. His term, I don't know how long the terms are on CWAS.
CWAS is 5 years.
Okay, so his term would expire 12/18?
12/18, yeah.
18, yep.
Okay. Norman Turner, reappointed until 12/18. And John House Wilson reappointed until 12/18. We'll reappoint Adele Ruger to the Board of Assessment Review. You know how long those are?
BAR is,
It's short, isn't it? It's not a couple of years, I think,
I don't have.
All right.
isn't it? We don't appoint it, do we appoint the BAR every year? No.
I think they have terms that expire. I remember doing this before.
So do I remember doing, yeah.
Theirs is a little different because they start October 1st to September 30th. That's their
Wow.
appointment schedule.
Okay.
I can figure out what that is.
Okay, so to whatever her term is, reappoint Linda Donovan to be ZBA Chair and her term to expire December of 2018. Augusta Yearwood, reappointed Planning Board, her term to expire 12/31/2020.
The year the woman got the right to vote, 100 years later.
Mary Woodburn, reappointed to the Ethics Board, her term to expire in December of 2018. Michael Dimitrovitz, Vice Chair of the NCB, reappointed until December 31st, 2015. Rhett Wires, Chair of ENCB, to expire 12/31/15. Libby Murphy, ENCB. Boy, good thing we're doing this, or we wouldn't have an ENCB.
We would, and I believe they have an empty seat, too.
Well, we were supposed to interview Todd Westlake today, but he's not here. So reappoint Libby Murphy to 12/31/15. Reappoint Jim DeLon to the chair of CWASP as 12/31/18. I don't know if we appoint the chairs or if they do that, but we'll reappoint him.
You're reappointing him to the committee. and
Right, they decide, okay.
He goes off.
Yeah. Reappoint Seth McKee to CWASP until the end of December 2018. Kara Lee to CWASP, 12/31/18.
I'd like to discuss that more, though.
Yeah, well, I was about to say.
I'd like to discuss that.
Okay.
Is it just open
Wouldn't
the
you?
appointment?
Well, we can
Yeah.
have a quick executive.
We have to, because we have to do the hiring anyway.
And attendance.
Right,
And all that issues.
but, right,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, so Jeff, do you second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor, motion so carried.
There's a couple on there.
Yeah, we didn't
What
do-
about the two alternate?
Yeah, we haven't interviewed anybody.
Oh, okay.
So, but we do need to, you need to advertise for planning board alternates. Because
Or
Augusta,
do we do
No, I
that?
don't do that.
Okay,
Carol does that.
Okay.
Because Augusta was an alternate and moved on to the planning board.
okay.
And we're using,
And we're using, oh, wait a minute.
no, we're
You know what?
using Lynn, we're using,
You know what, I think they might, right.
we're using Lynn as the alternate on it for the application because one of the members had
Right.
to take conflict of interest.
But I wonder if Lyle, I mean, gosh, he's been on forever.
Well, he's still on it, he just.
I know,
yeah.
but I'm wondering if it's time to.
Okay, we can talk, okay, so, I want to, invite, well, now we have the hearing on the police commission. I want to invite the village to the January 16th meeting, figuring, I don't know if we're gonna do a citizens committee for the comprehensive plan or not, but, I guess we got the comp plan.
Didn't we establish that they come to our meeting every month and we go to theirs?
Well, that we should, I mean,
No, we voted to do that.
I don't know if we was that they were gonna actually come or that we would designate and invite them to come.
Set a schedule for the last meeting
The
of
last meeting,
the month.
is that what we did? Okay, so then let's just invite them to the
23rd?
yeah, the 23rd, and I'll just let them know.
You have a public hearing.
Yeah, but that one will be less complicated, less,
Okay.
and it's better, I don't care, let's wait till the
So
23rd.
the 16th is just gonna be a regular town
Yeah.
meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we'll do it the 23rd. Okay, do you want to do the warrant, guys? Want to move the warrant?
Do you want to just designate January 1st?
Oh, right, I'm sorry, that's not, that we can't go. January 1st, motion to designate January 1st, 2014 as a holiday.
So moved.
A second, Kitty?
Second.
Motion so carried. Thank you for that, so we can forget that. So we just have to accept the minutes and do the warrant, and then go into executive session for personnel. So Kitty, do you want to move the warrant?
I move that we authorize the supervisor to sign the warrant in the amount of $460,178.87.
Second?
Motion so carried. Okay, now the minutes. That's in case,
Something.
in case there's somebody who wasn't gonna pay, who wouldn't want to pay this bill. And so it's an explanation of whatever, but it's not a problem because
We paid it.
we paid it. It's been 4 months that I have not.
I know.
Because I was just, okay, minutes. We have, do you want to do the months? I mean, I looked at them all, so.
It's November 6th.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to move November 6th?
Oh,
I mean, I could move them all, I mean, here they
there
are.
was
Do you want to?
just one that I didn't attend. So I
Take a
just
look.
wanna-
Yeah.
Okay, you were.
Oh, that one.
Jeff
yeah.
was absent this one, so can we not do it because Jeff can't?
No.
No, I think it was just late. I was.
Oh, you did, that's right, you did come in.
Right. And that was the only thing that I remember, is that you didn't put in the time that the council.
I put it in.
Is it,
So the final will have.
it's not in here, but
It's
you've
not
got
in
it?
there, but I-
Excellent, all right.
Yeah.
That was my
I
only,
think that was the meeting that started early, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
6:30.
Yeah, I couldn't
Okay.
get here till
Okay,
like
right, that's
So,
right.
I move, we accept the minutes of November 6th.
I can second it because I
Yep.
was here.
Right.
Okay, motion so carried.
November 15th.
I move that we accept the minutes of November 15th.
Jeff, you want a second?
Sure. I will second.
Motion so carried.
November 18th. That was a special meeting for the budget.
Yep.
Yep. Make a motion, we accept the minutes of November 18th.
Second.
Motion so carried.
Aye.
November 21st.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion so carried.
And December 5th. That was a special meeting.
Right, that's the
you
only
at
thing
that one?
about that.
Were you at that one?
Yeah, this was
yeah,
when Kevin left. We should put.
She did, I think she did 7:30.
It does.
I
If you
know,
look
but
at-
we should, that should go after the dental and health
No,
insurance.
he left before you made a motion to,
No, he,
he left and then we made the motions. So she did it right. Because I took.
but he left after discussion of dental and health insurance.
Well, he did leave after the discussion, but he,
Right.
so you can add left after discussion, but he wasn't here when we made the motions.
Well, somehow we have to reflect the fact that he was there for that discussion.
Okay, so, motion, okay, Councilman left the meeting after discussion on health insurance,
Okay.
okay? Okay, so you want to move it with that amendment?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff, second?
Second.
Okay, motion so carried.
Okay, that's it.
Yep, okay, so the only thing is making a motion to go into executive session. Unless, Chris, there's nothing else we have to... Okay, great. Okay, so we are going to make a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of hiring, firing, and what's the other phrase you're supposed to say?
Motion.
Well, this is for
Number
the
5 of the open
purposes,
meetings law.
this is for the purposes of hiring in the
Recycling center.
recycling department.
Right,
That's what we have to say.
okay. Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So we're going to let you sign off, and I guess we're going to say goodnight to Councilwoman Kitty Brown at her last meeting. So wave to the audience, Kitty.
Good night. Wait, so if this is my last moment, I just want to say that, oh gosh, I was gonna, I want to thank the Academy.
I'm going to have you back, Kitty. This won't be it. You will be back.
I really do want to thank my colleagues on the board. I mean, we've put in a lot of really strenuous hours. We've got a lot of good work done, and last night was my last meeting as the liaison to the Historic Preservation Commission, and I just want to thank the commissioners, Commissioner Orfatelli, Helen from our office here, Karen Sobel, who put together an incredible document on the Testimonial Gatehouse, Dave Gilmore, Steve Warren, I think that's all of them. Laura, who I've been liaising with at the recycling center, you have just changed the world up there. It's just been a pleasure to watch. And my husband, David, who has been 12 years saying, "You're not going to run again, you're not going to run again." No, darling, I'm not going to run again. Susan, it's been a pleasure working with you. And as Dorothy said, Scarecrow, I think I'm going to miss you most of all.
Miss you, Kitty.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. What did you want?
That list of all the appointments.
Oh, okay.
That's,
We have
Okay.
disagreed with things, you're right,
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense, and you're looking out.
we'll meet tomorrow. But we'll
Say,
She's not disappearing, don't worry.
you said you don't think you deserve
Well-
everything, I said, I personally think you did because it was you. I mean, it's all coming to this point for the last couple of months, I don't know why, but it's everything that you've been saying.